Chapter 455. Hearing Wu Kadi's answer, Water Spirit asked in a deep voice, "Why?" Wu Kadi sneered, "Water Spirit, do you think that 2 pieces of level 10 equipment can be compared to 1 piece of level 20 equipment?" Speaking up to here, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, "Shui Lingzi, do you think I'm stupid and can't figure this out?" This time, before Water Spirit could reply, Shadowless spoke first. "Water Spirit, if possible, I would also like to use 2 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for 1 piece of level 20 equipment from you. Would you agree to that?" Hearing Shadowless words, Wu Kadi also said loudly, "Yes, me too. I also want to use 2 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for 1 piece of level 20 equipment. Water Spirit, let's exchange." After hearing the two's words, Water Spirit's face became very ugly. After a while, she turned to Wu Kadi and said, "Wu Kadi, since you don't agree, then I'll use 3 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for 1 piece of level 20 equipment. Is that okay?" This time, without waiting for Wu Kadi's answer, Shadowless sneered again. "Water Spirit, then I'll also use 3 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for 1 piece of level 20 equipment." Wu Kadi looked at Water Spirit and said indifferently, "Water Spirit, you heard it. 3 pieces of level 10 equipment and 1 piece of level 20 equipment are not comparable." Water Spirit naturally understood what Wu Kadi and Shadowless were talking about. When it came to the level of equipment, it wasn't a simple math. According to math, 2 pieces of level 10 equipment added together were equal to 1 piece of level 20 equipment. But in terms of equipment levels, it was far from that simple. If one wanted to craft high-level equipment, the difficulty would increase exponentially with every increase in level. If one were to compare based on the value of the equipment, if one were to take out a piece of level 20 equipment, no matter how many pieces of level 10 equipment you took out, no one would exchange with you. A piece of level 20 equipment could withstand a level 20 attack, but a piece of level 10 equipment could only withstand a level 10 attack. Even if you had 10 pieces of level 10 equipment, they would still not be able to withstand a level 20 attack. Moreover, you could wear a piece of level 20 equipment, but you couldn't wear more than 10 pieces of level 10 equipment. Therefore, everyone would use level 20 equipment to exchange for level 10 equipment, no matter how many there were. Water Spirit looked at Wu Kadi and was silent for a while. Then, she suddenly stretched out her hand and said loudly, "Brother Wu Kadi, the Tiangongmen and Wu family have a good relationship for generations. I think that we shouldn't fall out in our generation. I hope that you can understand the difficulties of the Tiangongmen. I'll give you 5 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for that piece of level 20 equipment. If Brother Wu agrees, then we can still be good friends." After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kadi knew that he should stop before going too far, but his goal was still the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. He didn't know if Kikyaman's matter was true or not, but these 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, as long as Water Spirit agreed, then he definitely had a way to get them. This was the most practical thing. The Wu family was not the Tiangongmen. All of their equipment was bought with money. Now that there was such a good opportunity, how could Wu Kadi let it go? Thinking up to here, Wu Kadi didn't look at the pale-faced Water Spirit. He turned to Shadowless and asked with a smile, "Brother Shadowless, if it was you, would you use 5 pieces of level 10 equipment to exchange for that piece of level 20 equipment?" Hearing Wu Kadi's question, Shadowless didn't hesitate and shook his head. "No, 5 pieces of level 10 equipment can't be compared to a piece of level 20 equipment. If it was me, then I definitely wouldn't exchange." Hearing Shadowless answer, Wu Kadi nodded and turned to look at Water Spirit. He smiled and said, "Water Spirit, you heard it too. 5 pieces of level 10 equipment can't be compared to a piece of level 20 equipment. If we exchange like this, then we'll be at a disadvantage." Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Water Spirit only felt that it was grating. All of the equipment here belonged to the Tiangongmen. Wu Kadi saying that he was at a disadvantage. Wasn't this ridiculous? Thinking up to here, a sense of powerlessness rose in Water Spirit's heart. A dignified consecrated of the Tiangongmen was forced to this extent. It was ridiculous. She gave them equipment, But these people were still being picky. It was unreasonable. If it was in normal times, no matter what kind of equipment the Tangolman gave others, they would be flattered. But now, not only were these people not grateful to the Tangolman, they were even complaining. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit just wanted to grab all of these people and beat them up. Then she would see if they still had a conscience. The Heaven's Craftsman faction didn't know how to conjure magic either. Every piece of equipment could only be forged with capital. If she really had to give these 3 people 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, Water Spirit would feel dizzy just thinking about it. Deep-sea cold iron and carefully crafted equipment could resist attacks of level 10. If she wanted to craft level 20 equipment, then she would need even rarer materials. Deep-sea cold iron and gold essence were already expensive, not to mention materials that could craft level 20 equipment. The price made Water Spirit's heart ache just thinking about it. Even so, these 3 greedy people in front of her still weren't satisfied. But even if Water Spirit was about to explode in anger, she knew that at this time, she could only endure. As long as these 3 people were dealt with, then she could make a move on Kikyaman. Kikyaman could use the skin of a wild bear to make armor that could resist level 24 attacks. This was something that Water Spirit had heard, but she didn't see it with her own eyes. If all of this was true, then even if she had to pay 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, it would be worth it. However, Shui Lingzi was very clear that the possibility of this being true was very small. According to Water Spirit's estimation, Kikyaman most likely used some kind of secret method to temporarily increase the defense of the wild bear's skin to a terrifying level. If one wanted to use the skin of a wild bear to make a leather armor with such powerful defensive capabilities, it would be impossible. Water Spirit was just trying her luck. If Kikyaman could make such a powerful armor, then the Tangolman would make a big profit. But if Kikyaman only used some kind of secret method to temporarily increase the defense of the wild bear's skin, then it wouldn't be of much use. There were many things that could increase defense. For example, the Tangolman spirit water was a very heaven-defying item. The reason why the spiritual water was said to be a heaven-defying item was because the increase in defense by the spiritual water was permanent and would not change due to the passage of time. Chapter 456. This was a test of luck. If Kikyaman could really make such a high defense armor, then even if the Tangolman had to pay 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, it would be worth it. If all of this was fake, then the Tangolman would suffer a huge loss. Thinking of this, Water Spirit couldn't make up her mind. If she succeeded, then she would become the hero of the Tangolman. But if she failed, then she wouldn't be able to stay in the Tangolman anymore. Looking at her fluttering white beard, Water Spirit couldn't help but hesitate. If she failed, then she would be doomed eternally. Seeing that Water Spirit wasn't willing to say anything, Shadowless suddenly sneered, "Water Spirit, it seems like you don't have much sincerity. It's just 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, and you don't even want to give it to us. How about you don't even take out a single piece? Wouldn't that be more economical?" Shadowless words woke up Water Spirit from her thoughts. Water Spirit looked up at Shadowless, then turned to Wu-Kadi and suddenly said, "Brother Wu-Kadi, just for a promise, the Tangolman have to pay each person 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Do you think it's worth it?" Hearing Water Spirit's question, Wu-Kadi froze for a moment, then shook his head and sneered, "Not worth it. I think we should just forget about this matter. Just like Brother Shadowless said, we didn't make a promise. The Tangolman would also save 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. Wouldn't that be better?" Hearing Wu-Kadi's answer, Water Spirit sighed. If the Tangolman saved these 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, what would happen to me? Wu-Kadi sneered. Nothing would happen. It would be the same as now. Everyone can do whatever they want and say whatever they want. Wouldn't that be better? Hearing Wu-Kadi's answer, Water Spirit clenched her teeth in anger, but there was nothing she could do. No matter how high her and Fire Spirit's martial arts were, it was impossible for them to deal with so many people. If they forced themselves to fight, not only would they be beaten up badly, they would also become a joke in the Jianghu. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sighed. She looked up at Wu Kadi and sincerely said, "Brother Wu Kadi, the Heaven's Craftsman Gate and the Wu family have been friends for so many years. In consideration of this friendship, I'll use 2 pieces of level 15 equipment to replace that level 20 equipment. What do you think?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kadi didn't hesitate and shook his head. "Water Spirit, you want to use 2 pieces of level 15 equipment for level 20 equipment? They don't seem to be equal. If it was you, would you agree?" Water Spirit bitterly smiled and shook her head. "No, but I asked for Brother Wu Kadi's understanding. The Taiangongmen really can't take out so much level 20 equipment. If Brother Wu Kadi agrees, I'll make up for Brother Wu Kadi's loss in the future." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Wu Kadi nodded and said, "Shui Lingzi, I'll say the ugly words first. It's better for you and me to make things clear. Now let me ask you, how do you plan on compensating my Wu family?" Water Spirit thought for a bit before asking, "If Brother Wu Kadi isn't satisfied with my conditions, then tell me, what should we do to satisfy your conditions?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kadi smiled and nodded. "Water Spirit, since you want me to say it, then I'll say it." Water Spirit nodded. "Brother Wu Kadi, as long as we Taiangongmen can do it, we'll definitely do it for you." Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Wu Kadi nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "Since you're so straightforward, then I'll be frank." Water Spirit nodded. "There's no harm in saying it." Wu Kadi lightly coughed, then slowly said, "You can first give us a level 20 equipment and 2 level 15 equipment." At this point, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. "After a year, the Heaven's Craftsman Gate will give the Wu family a piece of level 20 equipment. Then, we will be even." Hearing Wu Kadi's conditions, Water Spirit was stunned for a while before suddenly shouting, "Wu Kadi, you're too shameless. We've already given you a level 20 equipment and 2 level 15 equipment. How can we give you another level 20 equipment after a year? Isn't this a bit too much?" Hearing Water Spirit's roar, Wu Kadi shook his head. "Water Spirit, this matter is consensual. The 2 level 15 equipment you mentioned can only be considered as interest. So, after a year, you still have to give me a level 20 equipment. Is there something wrong with that?" Hearing Wu Kadi's answer, Water Spirit suddenly flew into a rage and crazily roared. "Wu Kadi, you're too shameless. You think level 15 equipment doesn't need to be crafted? That it doesn't need materials? That it just fell from the sky? I definitely won't agree to this condition of yours. You should just give up." Wu Kadi spread out his hands. "Water Spirit, you should calm down. You're the one who asked me to state my conditions, so of course I'll state the conditions that are most beneficial to me. Don't tell me you expect me to say that I don't want the equipment. Isn't that a joke?" Water Spirit angrily said, "Even if you want to state conditions, you should at least state conditions that everyone can accept. How can you even say such hateful conditions?" Wu Kadi shook his head. "Since you don't want to accept this condition, then I can't do anything about it. In order to reach an agreement between us, please immediately take out 2 level 20 equipment." Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Water Spirit swallowed back the words she was about to say. She took a few deep breaths before shaking her head. "No, we definitely don't have 2 level 20 equipment." Wu Kadi coldly laughed. "If that's the case, then what's the point of us talking about this? How about we just cancel this agreement? You Taiangongmen don't need to give us equipment. Our Wu family can do whatever we want. You Taiangongmen can't do anything about it." Seeing that both sides were in a deadlock again, Shadowless suddenly stepped up and said, "You two, let's talk about this peacefully. Don't let your emotions get the better of you." Saying this, Shadowless turned to look at Water Spirit and said with a smile, "Water Spirit, don't you think so?" Seeing Shadowless's gaze, Water Spirit froze for a moment. The anger in her heart quickly dissipated. She suddenly remembered that if she got angry with Wu Kadi now, then it wouldn't be good for her and Fire Spirit at all. Her and Fire Spirit's goal this time was to get the Kikyaman. As long as they could bring the Kikyaman back, then everything would be fine. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit let out a sigh of relief and calmed her anger. She no longer turned to look at Wu Kadi and slowly said, "Brother Wu Kadi, let's talk about peacefully." Chapter 457. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu-Kadi nodded indifferently. Water Spirit, I'm very sincere, but you keep going back on your words. You're not sincere at all. Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, the anger in Water Spirit's heart was ignited again. The Taigamen gave you equipment, and you're still being so picky. Are you even human? Not only that, but you're still making sarcastic remarks. It's simply infuriating. Water Spirit was sure that if the 2 pieces of level 15 equipment were to be given to someone, that person would probably be deeply grateful to the Heaven's Craftsman faction. However, Wu-Kadi seemed to be at a disadvantage when faced with 2 pieces of level 15 equipment. Water Spirit was so angry that her hands and feet were trembling. If there was a way, she would immediately tear Wu-Kadi to pieces to vent the anger in her heart. But that was just a thought. Water Spirit was sure that if she got angry right now, the ones who would be torn to pieces would be her and Fire Spirit. This time, the Wu family not only sent the 2 brothers, Wu-Kadi and Wu-Kadi, but also their elder, Wu-Lai. Wu-Lai's martial arts were unfathomable, so she guessed that if there were no accidents, she and Fire Spirit together wouldn't be a match for Wu-Lai. They would definitely be beaten up miserably. Water Spirit lowered her head and thought for a bit. Then she looked up at Wu-Kadi and said, just like Brother Wu-Kadi said, I can give your Wu family a piece of level 20 equipment. After a year, I'll give you another piece of level 20 equipment. How about this? It was reasonable to say that Water Spirit's condition was already very generous. Level 20 equipment was something that many people had never seen in their entire life. Given 2 pieces of such good equipment to the Wu clan for free, Wu-Kadi would have been overjoyed if it were any other time. But now it was different. The more Water Spirit said this, the more suspicious Wu-Kadi became. The rumors about Kikyaman were true. Kikyaman could really use the skin of a wild bear to make armor that could block level 24 attacks. Thinking of this, Wu-Kadi became very excited. There were plenty of wild bears in the wastelands, as many as one wanted. However, with Kikyaman's help, crafting LV-24 equipment would be a piece of cake. Level 20 equipment wasn't bad, but Wu-Kadi knew that Kikyaman could use wild bear pelts to make level 24 leather armor. In his eyes, level 20 equipment was no different from toys. This meant that if the Taigamen were willing to give him the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, Wu-Kadi would take them. If the Taigamen did not want to, Wu-Kadi would not force them. Wu-Kadi did not care about the 2 level 20 equipment, but he had to bring the Kikyaman back. Thinking up to this point, Wu-Kadi suddenly sneered. Water Spirit, can we not go back on our words? I just said that if you want to pay for the other level 20 equipment a year later, you will have to pay interest. At this point, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. The interest is the 2 pieces of level 15 equipment. Unless the Heaven's Craftsman faction wants to give us level 20 equipment right away, we'll have to pay interest if we delay the payment. Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Water Spirit sighed. Brother Wu-Kadi, can't we have a good talk? Wu-Kadi sneered. Am I not having a good talk with you? If you didn't go back on your words at the beginning, we would have already reached an agreement. Hearing this, Water Spirit bitterly said, Brother Wu-Kadi, this is all my fault. But we Taigamen also have our difficulties. If we only pay you 2 level 20 equipment, then the Taigamen can still afford it. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit turned to look at Shadowless before continuing, but Brother Shadowless also wants 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. This will be difficult. Speaking of this, Water Spirit sighed again before slowly saying, wanting to make a level 20 equipment is no small matter. It is not an easy matter. Paying for so many level 20 equipment in such a short time, even the Taigamen might not be able to do it. So Brother Wu-Kadi, please cooperate with us and understand the difficulties of the Taigamen. As long as you agree to pay for the other level 20 equipment a year later, our agreement will take effect immediately. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Wu-Kadi shook his head. Shui Lingzi, I'll be honest with you. It's not that our Wu clan is being unreasonable. It's just that your Heaven's Craftsman faction has gone too far. Speaking of this, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. At the beginning, we asked for a level 24 equipment, but you did not agree and insisted on giving us 2 level 20 equipment. Good. Remember what you said. Our Wu family will give you face and use 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to replace that level 24 equipment. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly shouted, Shui Lingzi, our Wu family has already taken a step back, but not only are you not grateful, you even think that our Wu family is easy to bully. Just as Wu Kedi said this, Shui Lingzi waved her hand and interrupted him. Brother Wu Kedi, you're wrong. It's clearly our Heaven's Craftsman faction who has repeatedly exercised forbearance. So how is it your Wu family who has taken a step back? Wu Kedi angrily said, taking a level 24 equipment back to 2 level 20 equipment, isn't that taking a step back? Water Spirit nodded. I'm very grateful for this point. The Wu family is very reasonable. Wu Kedi sneered. You yourself have admitted this point, but how did you treat us? In the end, you're not even willing to give us 2 level 20 equipment. Speaking of this, Wu Kedi sneered a few more times before continuing. Not only that, you also think our Wu family is a fool. You actually want to use 2 level 10 equipment to exchange for a level 20 equipment. Tell me, is there such a fool in this world? Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand and said, Brother Wu Kedi, you misunderstood. This old man really did not mean that. What I said just now was just a temporary measure. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit sighed. Our Heaven's Craftsman gate really can't take out that many level 20 equipment, so we'd like to ask Brother Wu Kedi to make an exception and exchange 2 level 10 equipment for that level 20 equipment. Wu Kedi sneered and waved his hand. Water Spirit, by doing this, aren't you treating our Wu family as fools? Do you think our Wu family doesn't know that 2 level 10 equipment can compare to a level 20 equipment? Water Spirit, you are really going too far. I am so angry. Seeing Wu Kedi getting angry, Water Spirit hurriedly explained, Brother Wu Kedi, you really misunderstood me. Chapter 458. Wu Kedi angrily said, Water Spirit, could it be that you want to use 2 level 10 equipment to exchange for 1 level 20 equipment? Did I misunderstand you? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Water Spirit blushed and hurriedly waved his hand. Brother Wu Kedi, it's already over. Let's not talk about it anymore. Since you're not satisfied with the conditions just now, we can talk about it again until everyone is satisfied. Wu Kedi stretched out 2 fingers and coldly said, 2 level 20 equipment can't be delayed. This deal is done. Seeing this, Water Spirit hurriedly waved his hand and said, Brother Wu Kedi, it's really impossible to pay immediately. I can promise you that within a year, I will definitely pay the other level 20 equipment to your Wu clan. Wu Kedi decisively shook his head. No, you Taiyangalman don't keep your word. I'm really worried. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Water Spirit was a bit angry. Wu Kedi, when have we Taiyangalman ever not kept our word? You better explain it clearly. Wu Kedi heard this and coldly laughed. Water Spirit, with what you did just now, do you think we're not worried? This time, before Water Spirit could say anything, Shadowless, who stood beside her, suddenly spoke up. Water Spirit, you don't need to say anything more. No matter what you say, nobody believes that your Heaven's Craftsman gate can't even produce a few pieces of level 20 equipment. Water Spirit shook his head and bitterly smiled. Brother Shadowless, although the Taiyangalman are rich, if you want to take out so many level 20 equipment at once, I'm afraid that it will immediately affect the operations of the Taiyangalman. The consequences would be unimaginable. Water Spirit's words were sincere, and it was also the truth. Just by looking at how Han Qinyan used deep-sea cold iron and fine gold to forge equipment, it should be clear how high level 20 equipment was. Deep-sea cold iron and fine gold equipment could only be considered level 10 equipment. It probably couldn't even reach level 15 equipment. One could imagine how difficult it was to forge level 20 equipment. Indeed, the Taiyangalman were big. If they used up all their resources, they could still forge 6 level 20 equipment. But what about in the future? How were the Taiyangalman going to operate in the future If all the top-grade materials were used up, it was impossible for the huge Tiangongmen to only produce level 10 and below equipment. If they really produced equipment below level 10, the reputation of the Tiangongmen would be completely destroyed. Water Spirit naturally knew this, so she didn't want to give them so much level 20 equipment at once. Shadowless and Wu Kadi naturally knew the difficulties of the Tiangongmen, but so what if they knew? This was such a good opportunity. If he did not take advantage of it and earn 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from the Tiangongmen, he would not have another chance in the future. As for whether or not the Tiangongmen had enough materials to produce more advanced equipment, that had nothing to do with them. Looking at the bitter face of Shui Lingzi, although Wu Kadi understood Shui Lingzi's difficulties, he still didn't want to let her go. If Shui Lingzi backed off, Wu Kadi swore that he would not make things difficult for him. Wu Kadi naturally understood why Shui Lingzi was doing this. Shui Lingzi wanted to take away the Tiangongmen and take the secrets of the Tiangongmen for herself. If she gave up on this plan, Wu Kadi naturally did not need to take her 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. With Kikyaman, there would be plenty of advanced equipment. Thinking of this, Wu Kadi suddenly said loudly, "Shui Lingzi, we are all from the South region. I'll give you a suggestion." Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Shui Lingzi's eyes lit up. "Brother Wu Kadi, if you have something to say, just say it." Wu Kadi nodded and said softly, "I think since the Tiangongmen can't take out that much equipment, why don't you all leave?" Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Shui Lingzi's heart sank. If she left like this, wouldn't she miss out on a good opportunity? Once the secret of Kikyaman was spread out, if Kikyaman could really create such heaven-defying equipment, then the Tiangongmen would no longer have a foothold in the South region. Once level 20 equipment was everywhere in the South region, the decline of the Tiangongmen would only be a matter of time. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi's heart was filled with sorrow. This time, she had to seize this opportunity. If she missed this opportunity, the Tiangongmen would be finished. Shui Lingzi looked at Wu Kadi and suddenly sighed. "Brother Wu Kadi, thank you for your good intentions, but Kikyaman is closely related to sect leader Han's disappearance. So, I must let Kikyaman come with us to help with the investigation." Hearing Shui Lingzi's expected words, Wu Ka let out a sigh. "In that case, I hope the Heavens Craftsman faction can give me my 2 pieces of LV-20 equipment as soon as possible." Hearing Wu Kadi mention this matter again, Shui Lingzi became impatient again. If Qiqiao Sect's secret was true, and they could really use wilderness bear skin to forge level 20 equipment, then giving Wu Clan 2 pieces of level 20 equipment wouldn't matter much. But if Kikyaman's secret was fake and they only used some item to temporarily increase the defense of the leather armor, then this secret would be useless. Water Spirit was very clear that if there was an item that could increase the defense of a wild bear's leather, then the value of this item would far exceed the value of this leather armor. Not only that, but this item would also be very difficult to obtain. It might even be the only one in the world. So, if Kikyaman's secret was fake, then even if they captured the people from Kikyaman, they wouldn't be able to increase the strength of the Tiangongmen. Paying the 3 of them 6 pieces of level 20 equipment was no different from throwing them into the water for nothing. Thinking about this, Shui Lingzi became even more hesitant. She couldn't make the right decision. At this critical moment, she didn't know which decision was right. Shui Lingzi could see that Wu Kadi and the others were making things difficult for her because they had the same goal. Shui Lingzi was sure that if she withdrew from the Kikyaman, then Wu Kadi and Shadowless would immediately become enemies. It could even be said that the Godly Sword sect would also join this group of enemies. Shui Lingzi didn't dare to test her luck. Whether Kikyaman's secret was true or not, no one could be sure. This meant that there was a 50% chance that it was true. Once she withdrew, if the people from Kikyaman were taken away by the 3 groups, and if Kikyaman's secret was true, then the Tiangongmen would be finished. So, Shui Lingzi didn't dare to test her luck. She was afraid that Kikyaman's secret was true. If it was true, then everything would be over. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sighed, turned to Wu Kadi, and slowly said, Brother Wu Kadi, on account of the relationship between our two families, can you make an exception? Chapter 459. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Wu Kadi shook his head. Shui Lingzi, it's not that I don't want to bend the rules, but you really don't let me feel at ease. Speaking up to here, Wu Kadi paused for a bit before continuing. Shui Lingzi, if you were me, I'm afraid you wouldn't bend the rules either. Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Shui Lingzi silently nodded. Although she knew that Wu Kadi was telling the truth, she was still thinking quickly about how to deal with the situation in front of her. 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. If it was only the Wu clan, then it would be fine. After all, the Tiangongmen would be able to gather 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. What worried Shui Lingzi was that if she gave the Wu clan 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, then Shadowless and the Godly Sword sect would definitely not only give them 1 piece. If that was the case, then the Tiangongmen would have to pay 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. The Tiangongmen could indeed take out 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, but after taking them out, they would definitely lose a lot of strength. In the next few years, they would not be able to make any more high-level equipment. This kind of loss was not something that Shui Lingzi was willing to bear. Then what should she do? Shui Lingzi looked around and suddenly had an idea. This time, the Wu clan had sent 3 experts. Wu Kadi and Wu Katian were easy to deal with, but Wu Lai was definitely not someone that the 2 of them could deal with. If she wanted to rope them in and make them ignore this matter, then other than giving them 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, there was no other way. Although the Wu clan had to give 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, Shadowless and the Godly Sword sect did not need to. This time, only Shadowless came. No matter how strong Shadowless was, Water Spirit believed that he wouldn't be a match for her and Fire Spirit's winning streak. There was also the Godly Sword sect. Although Yin Dao's martial arts were not bad, in Shui Lingzi's eyes, he was still too weak. Thinking up to here, Shui Lingzi suddenly had an idea. Give the Wu clan 2 pieces of level 20 equipment and make them ignore this matter. As for Shadowless, as long as the Wu clan did not interfere, Shui Lingzi would not put Shadowless in her eyes. Understanding this point, Shui Lingzi's heart relaxed. She cupped her fist towards Wu Kadi and smiled. Brother Wu Kadi, I was too stingy just now. But don't worry, as long as the Wu clan agrees not to interfere, I will definitely give you the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Wu Kadi was stunned. Just a moment ago, Shui Lingzi was so calculative. Why did she suddenly become so generous? Wu Kadi did not know what was going on, but since she agreed to give him 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, then this was definitely a good thing. There were benefits to scam. There were only benefits. There was no harm to steal. Thinking of this, Wu Kadi smiled and said, Well said, as long as you keep your promise, we generals will not go back on our words. Lingzi once again, to Lingzi once again, Lingzi think. After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned to Shadowless and smiled. Brother Shadowless, do you want to leave by yourself? Or do you want us to ask you to leave? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless was stunned. After a while, he suddenly let out a cold laugh. Shui Lingzi, do you think that just because I'm the only one here, you'll be able to defeat me? Shui Lingzi quickly waved her hand. Brother Shadowless, don't misunderstand. As long as you promise me not to interfere, you can leave. We brothers will not say a word. Shadowless shook his head. No, I am a person who loves to meddle in other people's business. If I see something wrong, I will want to interfere. This is a habit that has been there for many years. I'm afraid it can't be changed in a short period of time. Please forgive me. Hearing Shadowless's answer, Shui Lingzi took a step forward and coldly smiled. Brother Shadowless, do you think you could do anything by yourself? Shadowless shook his head. I don't know, but I have a very bad habit. Even if you know you can't do anything, you still want to try. Shui Lingzi sneered. So, Brother Shadowless, you don't want to give us face? Face? Shadowless smiled. This isn't a matter of face, but a matter of right or wrong. If your Heaven's Craftsman faction is just and reasonable, then even if you lose face, I won't get involved in this matter. Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing. But if you Tangongmen are unreasonable, then no matter how powerful you Tangongmen are, I will still interfere. Hearing Shadowless's answer, Shui Lingzi nodded and took a step forward. Brother Shadowless, seeing that we are all friends, you won't even give me this bit of face? Seeing Shui Lingzi take a step closer to him, Shadowless didn't care at all and coldly smiled. Shui Lingzi, do you have many levels of friends? Shui Lingzi sneered. Shadowless, what do you mean? Shadowless turned his head to look at Wu Kadi, then smiled and said, The Wu clan has many experts here today, so the Heaven's Craftsman faction is willing to spend 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to bribe the Wu clan. At this point, Shadowless turned to look at the people from the Godly Knife faction. He then continued, Our people in the Godly Knife faction are few in number, and our martial arts are low. So, you want to force us to leave and save the 2 level 20 equipment? Hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi's face turned red. Luckily, it was nighttime, so they weren't seen by many people. Shui Lingzi calmed herself down and sternly shouted, Don't talk nonsense. Let me ask you, what do you want? Do you want to obediently leave, or do you want to promise me that you won't cause trouble again? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Shadowless shook his head. I don't want to agree to either of your conditions. I don't want to obediently leave, but I also don't want to listen to you. Just as Shadowless said this, Shui Lingzi suddenly let out a low roar, and in the blink of an eye, she rushed towards Shadowless like a bolt of lightning. His fists were as fast as lightning, creating a strong gust of wind that blew against Shadowless's clothes. Shadowless martial arts weren't as good as Shui Lingzi's, but why was he called Shadowless? It was because he was extremely fast, so people called him Shadowless. As for his real name, it had long been forgotten. Seeing Shui Lingzi's fist coming towards him, Shadowless only coldly smiled and disappeared, leaving only his cold laughter in the night. Although Shadowless disappeared quickly, Shui Lingzi wasn't someone to be trifled with. Seeing that Shadowless had dodged, Shui Lingzi let out a cold snort and sent a powerful punch towards where Shadowless had disappeared to. Shadowless once again let out a cold laugh and suddenly appeared beside Shui Lingzi. Chapter 460. Shadowless came to Shui Lingzi's side and suddenly raised his hand. A shiny dagger appeared in his hand. The dagger carried a deep cold light and suddenly stabbed towards Shui Lingzi's ribs. Feeling the cold wind, Shui Lingzi suddenly jumped into the air and threw a punch towards Shadowless's head. Shadowless saw that he didn't succeed and didn't dare to stay. He quickly bent his body and rushed forward, dodging Shui Lingzi's attack. Although Shadowless dodged Shui Lingzi's attack, the strong wind caused his hair to become messy. Shadowless rushed forward a few steps and dodged Shui Lingzi's attack before stabilizing his body. Looking back at Shui Lingzi, his heart couldn't help but be shocked. He thought that with his Qigong, even if he couldn't win against Shui Lingzi, he wouldn't lose. But Shui Lingzi's punch just now made him understand that Shui Lingzi's martial arts absolutely couldn't be underestimated. Just now, he had only withstood the wind from Shui Lingzi's punch, and it had already caused pain to his face. If he had been hit by Shui Lingzi's punch, he would have been finished. Thinking of this, Shadowless didn't dare to be careless. He turned around and cupped his fist towards Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, your martial arts are really good. Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. However, no matter how good your martial arts are, I'm afraid it's impossible for you to defeat me. As soon as Shadowless's voice fell, a voice rang out beside him. Is that so? What if I join in? When Shadowless heard this, he suddenly realized something. Suddenly, he felt a gust of wind coming from the side. He didn't dare to be careless anymore. He quickly jumped up and jumped into the air. Shadowless's body had just jumped up when Shui Lingzi's powerful punch flew past his feet. Before Shadowless could rejoice that he dodged in time, Shui Lingzi also jumped into the air and smashed toward Shadowless. Shadowless didn't think that the two would team up to deal with him. He quickly flipped in the air and dodged Shui Lingzi's attack. After this attack, Shadowless fell to the ground. Not only that, he hurriedly took a few steps back to open up the distance between him and Water Spirit. You Tai and Gongman are really capable. With your status, you actually joined hands to deal with me. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the people of Jianghu? Water Spirit blushed, but before she could say anything, Fire Spirit roared, "Against a villain like you, no matter how many people there are, it won't be enough." Shadowless couldn't help but sneer at Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, is this how your Heaven's Craftsman faction acts? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Today's matter is of great importance. We have no other choice. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused and sighed before continuing. Brother Wu Ying, as long as you promise to stay out of this place, I won't make things difficult for you. Don't worry, Water Spirit, will keep my word. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless suddenly sneered. When facing a strong enemy, you promise them benefits. When dealing with a weak enemy, you act in a tyrannical manner. So this is how your Heaven's Craftsman faction does things. It's really an eye-opener for me. Fire Spirit raged. So what? I told you not to meddle in other people's business. You didn't listen. Are you going to blame us brothers for attacking? Shadowless shook his head and turned to Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, you think the two of you can really deal with me? After hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi sighed. Brother Shadowless, your movement technique is very good, but with us brothers working together, you're definitely not our match. It's best if you listen to me and leave as soon as possible. Shadowless sneered. I don't believe you. Shui Lingzi sighed again. Since you don't believe me, then I have no choice but to restrain you. After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned into a bolt of lightning and charged at Shadowless. At the same time, the Fire Spirit let out an angry roar. He jumped into the air and attacked Shadowless from the sky. Shadowless didn't dare to fight back. He could only stomp on the ground and jump out horizontally. Shui Lingzi already knew that Shadowless would do this. Before she reached him, she changed direction and chased after him. Shui Lingzi could change direction, but Fire Spirit couldn't. Shui Lingzi was charging on the ground, so she could change direction. Fire Spirit was in the air, so he couldn't change direction. Seeing Shui Lingzi rush up alone, Shadowless sneered. He was also waiting for this opportunity. Shadowless flipped his hand, and a shiny dagger appeared in his hand. In the next moment, the cold dagger turned into a bright light and welcomed Shui Lingzi's attack. Even if Shui Lingzi's martial arts were higher than Shadowless, he didn't dare to meet the dagger with his bare hands. Helpless, Shui Lingzi could only slow down her attack and dodge to the side. At the same time, she regretted not bringing her own weapon. She thought that Kikyaman didn't need those things. She didn't expect these forces to appear out of nowhere. Seeing Shui Lingzi dodge to the side, Shadowless wasn't willing to let her go. With a fierce flick of his hand, the dagger stabbed towards Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi took advantage of the moment Shadowless changed his move and suddenly reached out to hit Shadowless's wrist, wanting to knock his dagger away. Shui Lingzi's move was very fast. Shadowless couldn't dodge it even if he wanted to. He could only reach out his left hand and block Shui Lingzi's punch. Pa! The two's fists collided. Although they both attacked in a hurry, they were still forced back a step by the recoil before they could stabilize themselves. Shadowless had just stabilized himself, and before he could react, Fire Spirit had already landed on the ground and kicked at Shadowless's side. Shadowless saw the situation and quickly took a step back, dodging Fire Spirit's attack. At the same time, he waved his dagger at Fire Spirit's foot. Seeing the cold glint of the dagger coming at his feet, the Fire Spirit was scared. He quickly roared and stopped his attack, barely dodging Shadowless' dagger. After forcing Fire Spirit back, before Shadowless could relax, he felt a gust of wind coming from the side. Shadowless was shocked. He couldn't care less anymore. He stomped on the ground and jumped into the air with all his strength. Fire Spirit saw this and was about to chase after him. However, Shadowless flipped in the air and landed far away. Fire Spirit roared and wanted to chase, but he was stopped by Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi turned to look at Shadowless and smiled. Brother Shadowless, we brothers haven't even used our full strength, and you've already lost. I think you should accept our conditions. Chapter 461. Shui Lingzi naturally had her reasons for not chasing after Shadowless. Although Shadowless came alone this time, the power behind him couldn't be underestimated. My family might be famous in the South County, but Shadowless was different. The power behind Shadowless was a powerful force in the entire Anwu country. More importantly, the Wu family could only rely on the Tiangongmen to get equipment in the South County. But Shadowless was different. He could get equipment in the entire Anwu country. Therefore, they didn't rely on the Tiangongmen very much. Therefore, Shui Lingzi didn't want to offend Shadowless and the power behind him. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, do you think you two brothers can defeat me with your strength? Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. You two brothers didn't use your full strength just now. Do you think I used my full strength just now? Shui Lingzi smiled and waved her hand. Brother Shadowless, don't say such things. No matter what, we Tiangongmen don't want to be enemies with you. Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before slowly continuing. Brother Shadowless, you heard what I said just now. Our Tiangongmen's vice sect leader mysteriously disappeared during this competition. Therefore, we need to bring Kikyaman's people back. After this matter is investigated, we will naturally let them go. This is a matter between us Tiangongmen and Kikyaman, so I ask Brother Shadowless to not get involved in this matter. After this matter is over, I will definitely go to your place to thank you. As soon as Shui Lingzi finished speaking, Sun Xiaoer, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Shui Lingzi, this matter really has nothing to do with our Kikyaman. I already said that sect leader Han's matter was done by Gu Yunfei. If there's anything, you can go find him. Why are you making things difficult for our Kikyaman? Hearing Sun Xiaoer's words, Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, you've heard it too. Since Seven Skills sect has already explained this matter clearly, why are you still pestering them? Is there a purpose in doing so? Shui Lingzi's expression changed, and she quickly said, Brother Shadowless, when sect leader Han disappeared, it was during the competition between Kikyaman and the Tiangongmen. If you say this has nothing to do with Kikyaman, who would believe it? As soon as Water Spirit's voice fell, Shadowless immediately replied, I believe you. After saying this, Shadowless paused for a moment before explaining. Sect Leader Sun and the others' martial arts aren't high, and Sect Leader Han's martial arts isn't something they can compare to. Even if Sect Leader Sun and the others wanted to harm Sect Leader Han, how could the Seven Skills sect accomplish such a thing in front of so many people? Furthermore, their martial arts were inferior to Sect Leader Han's. Moreover, Sect Leader Sun also said that this matter was done by Gu Yunfei. Gu Yunfei is an elder of the Tiangongmen, and Han Qingyun is his disciple. If Gu Yunfei wanted to harm Han Qingyun, it would be a simple matter. Even though this happened during the competition between the Tiangongmen and Kikyaman, if you think about it carefully, this is actually an internal matter of the Tiangongmen and has nothing to do with Kikyaman. Speaking up to here, Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and sneered. Shui Lingzi, am I not clear enough? This is your Tiangongmen's matter and has nothing to do with outsiders. Could it be that you want Kikyaman's people to go back with you and use them as scapegoats? After hearing Shadowless's words, Sun Xiaoer shouted, Yes, that's right. This is your Tiangong's problem. Don't blame it on our Seven Skills sect. Hearing Sun Xiaoer shouts, Fire Spirit said angrily, Shut up. No one is asking you. Shadowless sneered. You Tiangongmen bully the weak. This is against the rules. Could it be that Kikyaman won't allow someone else to say something fair? Shui Lingzi thought for a bit before saying, Our matter with Kikyaman. Other than Sect Leader Han's matter, there's still the competition between us that hasn't ended yet. So, after dealing with Sect Leader Han's matter, we still need to continue the competition until the victor is decided. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless nodded. After talking for so long, it seems your Heaven's Craftsman faction won't let Qiqiao sect off no matter what. Fire Spirit sneered, Shadowless, don't talk nonsense. This isn't a matter of letting them go or not. This competition must continue. Shui Lingzi nodded. We Tiangongmen are a big sect and have a bit of fame in the South region. If we can't even finish the competition with Kikyaman, we'll be laughed at by the people of Jianghu. Shadowless nodded. So you must bring Kikyaman's people back. Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing. In order to bring Kikyaman's people back, you don't care if they agree or not. If I'm not wrong, if Kikyaman's people don't agree to go back with you, you'll probably use force. Shui Lingzi replied seriously. Yes, if Kikyaman doesn't want to go back with us, we'll find a way to make them go back with us. Shadowless shook his head. Shadowless, don't agree with Tiangongmen on this point. So, I'll definitely stop you from doing that. Hearing Shadowless's answer, Fire Spirit sneered. With just you? Do you think you can stop all of us by yourself? Shadowless nodded. If I want to stop you, I alone will be enough. Fire Spirit suddenly roared and threw a punch at Shadowless. Shadowless, I want to see if you can do that. Shadowless sneered and took a step back. Is that so? Then I'll show you. Following Shadowless's words, a bright light rose from Shadowless's hand. In the blink of an eye, it charged towards Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit laughed. Child's play, let's see how I'll break you. As soon as the Fire Spirit finished speaking, his fist began to spin rapidly. Soon, a black ball appeared in front of him. After a while, the Fire Spirit suddenly roared, and the black ball flew toward Shadowless. The black ball and Shadowless's bright light collided. Everyone felt a gust of wind blowing in front of them. The wind was so strong that it made everyone's clothes flutter. After the two of them collided, the powerful genuine Qi immediately shook Shadowless back 4 or 5 steps before he could stabilize himself. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. Chapter 462. Fire Spirit's attack succeeded, and he was about to chase again. However, Shadowless had already retreated out of his attack range. Only then did he stabilize himself. Fire Spirit saw this and sneered. Shadowless, aren't you very powerful? Why are you running? Shadowless shook his head. Why should I run? Fire Spirit said angrily. Why are you so far away from me? Shadowless immediately laughed at the sky. Fire Spirit, you're meddling too much. Don't need to ask you for permission to stand anywhere. Fire Spirit was furious when he heard what Shadowless said. He immediately jumped up and charged at Shadowless. Shadowless's Qigong was very high. He might not be as good as Fire Spirit in a head-on battle, but in terms of dodging, it was hard for Fire Spirit to catch up to him. Shadowless sneered when he saw Fire Spirit charging at him. He turned around and dodged to the side. The Fire Spirit chased after him a few times, but Shadowless easily dodged them all. The Fire Spirit was furious as he roared out in anger. Shadowless felt great when he saw how angry Fire Spirit was. Just as he was about to mock him, he suddenly felt a surge of Qi coming from the side. Shadowless didn't dare to be careless. He quickly jumped up and dodged to the side again. However, as soon as he dodged, the Qi chased after him like a shadow. Shadowless was shocked. He quickly stomped on the ground and jumped into the air, taking the attack. Shadowless was about to let out a sigh of relief when Fire Spirit also jumped into the air and punched at him. Shadowless was shocked when he heard the sound of Fire Spirit's fist breaking through the air. He wanted to dodge now, but it was too late. He had no choice but to take out his dagger again and block Fire Spirit's fist. Fire Spirit already expected Shadowless to block him again. He sneered when he saw the blade flash in front of him. A black ball of light shot out from his fist and hit Shadowless like lightning. Shadowless saw this and waved his dagger around to block the black ball of light. Ha! The black ball of light and his Shadowless dagger collided and immediately made a muffled sound. After the sound, the two were both sent flying back. Shadowless used the recoil force to fly far away. Seeing that her attack had missed, Shui Lingzi did not stop and suddenly leaped forward, rushing towards where Shadowless had landed. Shadowless, who was still in the air, saw Water Spirit charge over and immediately understood what she was thinking. He couldn't help but be shocked. Fire Spirit, who had just fallen to the ground, saw this and didn't dare to hesitate. He quickly stomped on the ground and chased after Shadowless like a cannonball. Seeing this, cold sweat appeared on Shadowless's forehead. He wanted to land on the ground, but Water Spirit's on the ground. Fire Water Spirit's spirit in the air. More importantly, at this moment, the Shadowless was in the air, so it was impossible for him to change direction again. He could only follow his original trajectory and fall in the direction of Shui Lingzi. In this dangerous situation, Shadowless felt a chill in his heart. After thinking for a moment, Shadowless clenched his teeth and suddenly turned around. The dagger in his hand glowed brightly. At the same time, he roared, "Flowing water!" As Shadowless's voice fell, the light in front of him suddenly became clear. It was like a clear spring that flowed down from top to bottom. Occasionally, there would be a few waves in the clear spring water, causing ripples to appear in the clear lake water. Shui Lingzi, who was about to throw out a punch, jumped in fright when she saw this. Although her martial arts were higher than Shadowless, Shadowless's skills were not to be underestimated. Even if Water Spirit used normal attacks, she wouldn't be able to block it. Water Spirit knew this and could only retreat. Because the two were too close, even if she wanted to use a skill, she wouldn't be able to. This thought only appeared in Shui Lingzi's mind for a moment before she immediately reacted. Water Spirit suddenly lowered her body and threw herself to the side. While Water Spirit dodged, Shadowless's attack also arrived. The clear spring water flowed down to the place where Shui Lingzi was standing. In an instant, the dust on the ground suddenly rose up, followed by a muffled sound. Then, the spring water completely flowed down to the ground, and the dust completely covered the place. Shui Lingzi dodged in time and fell to the ground. She didn't even have time to get up and rolled a few times before bouncing up and standing to the side. At this moment, Shadowless used the rebound force from his skill and landed too late. Fire Spirit's attack had already arrived. Fire Spirit's black ball of light hit Shadowless's shoulder. Shadowless let out a scream and was sent flying by the power of the black ball of light. In the dust, Fire Spirit forced Shadowless back with one attack. Shadowless didn't dare to chase and quickly ran towards Water Spirit as soon as he landed on the ground. "Big brother, are you okay?" Water Spirit shook her head. "I'm fine." Hearing Water Spirit's voice, Fire Spirit was relieved. He turned to look at the dust behind him and saw that it was still rolling in the air. After a while, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed. In the middle of the smoke and dust, the originally flat ground had become a deep crater. Looking at the hole, Fire Spirit turned to look at Shadowless and yelled, "Shadowless, you're so vicious. You actually attacked so heavily." Shadowless wiped the stain from his mouth and held his shoulder that was hit. He said coldly, "Fire Spirit, I don't know who's the vicious one. You two brothers teamed up to deal with him. Isn't that vicious?" Fire Spirit was about to say something when Water Spirit walked up and cupped her fists. "Brother Shadowless, as long as you promise not to interfere with this matter, I can swear that us brothers will never attack you again." "Bah!" Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless spat on the ground and sneered. "Who's your Shadowless brother? Don't say such nice things. Since you've injured me today, this matter isn't over." Shadowless paused and took a deep breath before continuing. "Water Spirit, I'm telling you, if you want to take away Kikyomen's people today, it's impossible. As long as I'm here, don't even think about it." Seeing that Shadowless was injured and was still spouting nonsense, Fire Spirit became angry and wanted to rush up again. However, Water Spirit quickly pulled him back and gave him a look before turning to Shadowless and speaking in an apologetic tone. "Brother Shadowless, there was a misunderstanding just now. We shouldn't have fought, but because of a small argument, we really started fighting. Chapter 463. Shui Lingzi continued, Brother Shadowless, I won't hide it from you. I must bring the Kikyaman people back today. Otherwise, I won't be able to go back and report. Speaking of this, Shui Lingzi cupped her fists at Shadowless. Brother Shadowless, please don't worry about this anymore. When this is over, I will find a way to repay Brother Shadowless. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless sneered. Repay? How are you going to repay me? Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before smiling. From now on, Brother Shadowless is our Tyngalman's best friend. If you need us Tyngalman in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. We Tyngalman will do our best to help Brother Shadowless. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless suddenly sneered. After a while, he slowly said, Shui Lingzi, do you think that because I'm injured, I don't have any capital left? So you're trying to brush me off? Shui Lingzi heard this and quickly waved her hand. Brother Shadowless, what are you saying? We Tyngalman are very sincere. Shadowless shook his head. Sincere? How come I don't see any sincerity from you, Tyngalman? Speaking of this, Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, you should use a more sincere method. If it's just this, I won't be able to accept it. Hearing this, Fire Spirit suddenly yelled, Shadowless brat, if it wasn't for something important today, I would have beaten you up until you scream. You wouldn't be able to talk nonsense here. Shadowless looked at Fire Spirit with contempt and sneered. Fire Spirit, who doesn't know how to talk big? Let me tell you, if you want to catch up to me by yourself, you'll have to wait until your next life. Fire Spirit angrily stepped forward. Shadowless brat, you don't accept this? Shadowless shook his head. You can't even touch my smoke by yourself. Why should I accept this? As a consecrated of the Tyngalman, when had he ever been looked down upon like this? Fire Spirit clenched his fists and was about to charge forward again. Shui Lingzi saw this and could only sigh. She pulled Fire Spirit back and turned to Shadowless with a smile. Brother Shadowless, we Tyngalman have no grievances with you. Why are you forcing us to do this? Please tell us what is the reason. Hearing this, Shadowless shook his head. It's nothing. I just see that you Tyngalman are in the wrong and feel uncomfortable. That's why I want to get involved in this matter. Shui Lingzi sighed. Shadowless, I've already made it clear that we have A's disappearance, sex Shadowless. So we must bring the Qiao's people back. So we'll bring S. Speaking to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a bit before continuing. Brother Shadowless, are you going to get involved in our sex business as well? Shadowless shook his head. If it's just your Tyngalman's business, then I naturally wouldn't get involved. But you're venting your anger on Kikyaman for no reason. Of course I have to get involved. Shui Lingzi heard this and slowly said, Brother Shadowless, aren't you just trying to get involved in our Tyngalman's business? Shadowless shook his head again. I definitely won't get involved in your Tyngalman's business, but you're bullying Kikyaman, I really can't stand it. Seeing that Shadowless wasn't backing down, Shui Lingzi turned to Sun Shower and sighed. Sect Leader Sun, I'm only looking for you because of Sect Leader Han's matter. There's nothing else. I think you should come back with me. Although Shui Lingzi's words were gentle, Sun Shower still subconsciously took a step back and loudly said, I'm not going. I've already explained everything to you. Why would I go to the Tyngalman? Shui Lingzi pointed at Shadowless and sighed. Sect Leader Sun, what do you think of Shadowless? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Sun Shower nodded. Very good. Shui Lingzi sighed again. But because your Kikyaman won't come back with us, such a good person will probably die here today. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Sun Shower was shocked and quickly asked, what do you want? Seeing that Sun Shower was moved, Shui Lingzi was secretly happy and quickly continued. Shadowless has already been heavily injured by us for your Kikyaman, but he still wants to stand up for your Kikyaman. This kind of person can be considered a favor to your Kikyaman. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Sun Shower and faintly smiled. Sect Master Sun, my words shouldn't be wrong, right? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Sun Shower subconsciously looked at Shadowless and nodded. Of course, as long as you've helped our Kikyaman, you're our Kikyaman's friend. Seeing that Sun Shower agreed with her words, Shui Lingzi was even more happy and quickly said again, Sect Leader's son, could it be that you want to see your friend die here? Sun Shower shook her head. I don't want. Shui Lingzi sighed. Sect Leader's son, although you don't want to, but if you don't come back with us, your Kikyaman's friend will be hung here by us. Do you want to see this scene? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Sun Shower angrily said, Shui Lingzi, Shadowless only said a few words of justice. Do you want to make a move on him? Shui Lingzi sighed. Our mission this time is to bring you back and investigate Sect Leader Han's whereabouts. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. However, if someone tries to stop us, we will not show any mercy. Shui Lingzi pointed at Shadowless and turned to Sun Shower and said word by word. Shadowless overestimated himself, thinking that he can stop us. Sect Leader's son, you also saw it. If we didn't hold back, Shadowless would have already been hung here. Sect Leader's son, if you don't leave with us, then we'll make a move on Wu Yong. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Sun Shower was stunned. She didn't think that a dignified Taiyangongman would say such shameless words. But how should she answer him? Going back to the Taiyangongman with him was absolutely impossible. Sun Shower was sure that if she really went back to the Taiyangongman with Shui Lingzi, she wouldn't be able to come out for the rest of her life. But if she rejected Shui Lingzi, then wouldn't that make Shadowless' heart cold? No matter what, Shadowless had been helping them, so she couldn't refuse. While Sun Shower was hesitating, Shadowless suddenly laughed and said loudly, Don't worry, Sun Shower, I'm going to kill you. Shui Lingzi, you're really capable. In order to bring Kikyaman's people back. Chapter 464. Shadowless said loudly, Shui Lingzi, you're too shameless. In order to bring Kikyaman's people back, you're willing to do anything. Shui Lingzi didn't answer Shadowless and only coldly looked at Sun Shower and asked, Sect Leader's son, Shadowless' life is in your hands. If you agree to go back with us, Shadowless will be fine. If you don't, then I can only kill him. Speaking to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a bit before continuing, Sect Leader's son, if it comes to that, then it's all your fault. Think about it. If someone dies for Kikyaman, I'm afraid you won't feel good about it. Rather than that, why don't you come back with us? I, Shui Lingzi, promise you that as long as you agree to go back with us to the Taiyangongman, no one will dare to hurt you. After the matter is investigated, I will also promise to let you go. That should be fine, right? Shadowless still didn't wait for Sun Shower to reply and spoke first. Sect Leader's son, don't listen to his nonsense. With just the two of them, they want to deal with me? That's a fool's dream. Fire Spirit heard this and fiercely glared at Shadowless. Shadowless brat, do you think we can't deal with you? Shadowless shook his head. Although your martial arts are higher than mine, if I don't fight with you, do you have the confidence to catch up to me? Fire Spirit sneered. Do you want to try? Shadowless laughed. Even if I say yes, you can't catch up to me. Water Spirit reached out to stop Fire Spirit, then turned to Sun Shower and asked, Sect Master's son, what do you think? Should we get a try? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Sun Shower shook her head. Shui Lingzi saw this and said in a deep voice, Since you don't want Shadowless to try, does that mean you agree to go back with us? Sun Shower heard this and shook her head. I don't agree. Seeing that Sun Shower didn't agree no matter what, Shui Lingzi was furious. The 7 possibilities sex people didn't have high martial arts. So Shui Lingzi believed that even if he used a single finger, he would be able to beat them down. However, with so many forces watching from the side, he really couldn't do that. Although he used 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to bribe the Wu clan and get rid of this big enemy, Shadowless and the Godly Sword Gate weren't that easy to deal with. Although Shadowless was injured, if he joined forces with the people from the Godly Sword sect, it wouldn't be easy for him to bring the people from the 7 Possibilities sect back safely. Although the martial arts of the people from the Godly Saber School were not very high, they had a large number of people, which could be considered force. More importantly, whether it was Shadowless or the people from the godly sword gate, Shui Lingzi couldn't really kill them. No matter if Shadowless or the godly knife school's men were killed, they would certainly bring a powerful enemy to the Heaven's Craftsman School. Needless to say, the faction behind Shadowless was strong without a doubt. The godly sword gate's people couldn't be underestimated either. Even if you used your toes to think, you wouldn't want to offend a martial arts sect that dominated a region. It was because of this that Shui Lingzi kept enduring and wanted to solve this problem peacefully. Seeing that Shadowless wasn't willing to settle this peacefully, Shui Lingzi could only look for another way. If Kikyaman's people took the initiative to go back with the Taingongmen, then no one else could do anything about it. Seeing Shui Lingzi trying to flatter Sun Xiaoer, Shadowless naturally wouldn't agree. His goal this time was the same as everyone else's. Kikyaman's secret. If he could get his hands on Kikyaman's secret, then it would bring endless benefits. Shadowless came with this goal in mind. He also wanted to take away Kikyaman's people. He also wanted to get his hands on Kikyaman's secret. Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly shouted, "Shui Lingzi, do you really think you can beat me with just the two of you?" Shui Lingzi was already pissed off by Sun Xiaoer. After hearing Shadowless' provocation, her face turned green. Shui Lingzi fiercely glared at Sun Xiaoer before abruptly turning to look at Shadowless in the distance and sternly shouting, "Shadowless, I'll ask you one more time. Do you agree to my conditions or not?" Shadowless sneered and shook his head. "Impossible. As long as you bully Kikyaman, I will never agree." Shui Lingzi heard this and sneered. "Shadowless, you asked for it. Don't blame me for being cruel." After saying this, Water Spirit turned to Fire Spirit and gave him a meaningful look. Fire Spirit immediately nodded in understanding. Shui Lingzi and Fire Spirit slowly walked towards Shadowless. When he saw the two walk over, Shadowless started to get nervous. Although the Water Spirit and Fire Spirit were not walking fast, they were walking steadily. Almost every step was on solid ground. After making sure that there was no danger, they would take the second step. Not only that, with every step they took, their aura kept rising and their chi kept flowing through their body. The two of them had only taken 3 or 4 steps when Wan Yi's surging Jun Qi swelled up. Through the gaps in their clothes, the scattered Jin Qi continued to shoot out. Feeling the two's aura getting stronger and stronger, sweat started to appear on Shadowless' forehead. Even his palms started to get wet. Shadowless wiped his hand that was holding the dagger on his body, wiping away the sweat on his palm. Then, he held the dagger tightly and stared at Water Spirit and Fire Spirit. Seeing that there were only 4 or 5 steps between them, Shui Lingzi suddenly stopped, looked up at Shadowless, and asked in a deep voice, "Brother Shadowless, I already said that I will bring back Kikyaman's people. I hope you won't stop us." Shadowless forced a smile and shook his head. "Shui Lingzi, that's impossible. You Taingongmen are bullying the weak. I can't just ignore it." Hearing Shadowless's answer, Water Spirit nodded and said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, then don't blame us for being impolite." Seeing that Shui Lingzi was about to attack, Shadowless suddenly shouted, "Shui Lingzi, you think you can bully me just because you have more people?" Hearing this, Shui Lingzi was stunned for a moment as a bad feeling rose in her heart. Shadowless saw this and suddenly laughed. After laughing, he took out a whistling arrow and sneered. "Shui Lingzi, you really think I'm the only one here?" Hearing this, Shui Lingzi looked around suspiciously before asking in a deep voice, "Shadowless, what do you want?" Shadowless sneered and raised the whistling arrow in his hand and said loudly, "Shui Lingzi, as long as I throw this arrow into the sky, our people will immediately appear." Shadowless paused and stared at Shui Lingzi and said coldly, "Shui Lingzi, do you want me to throw this arrow into the sky?" Chapter 465. Seeing the whistling arrow in Shadowless' hand, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but stop. "Shadowless, what do you want?" Shadowless smiled. I don't want to do anything. Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, I want to ask you, what do you two want by coming here in such an imposing manner? Looking at the whistling arrow in Shadowless' hand, Shui Lingzi sighed. Brother Shadowless, you know what I mean. As long as you promise to stay out of this, we can still be good friends. Shadowless shook his head. Impossible. This time, before Shui Lingzi could speak, Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, Shadowless brat, don't use a whistling arrow to scare us. Throw it if you dare. Hearing Fire Spirit shout, Shadowless turned to Shui Lingzi and sneered. Shui Lingzi, you really want me to throw it? Shui Lingzi gritted her teeth. Brother Shadowless, this time, whether you throw it or not, we will definitely take away Kikyaman's people. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless sneered a few times and suddenly flicked his wrist, sending the whistling arrow flying towards the sky. Not long after the whistling arrow left his hand, a flame ignited on the whistling arrow. Under the flame's push, the whistling arrow made a sharp sound as it flew into the sky. After flying to a certain height, the whistling arrow suddenly exploded, creating a red halo in the sky that didn't dissipate for a long time. Shui Lingzi's face couldn't help but change when she saw the red halo. This whistling arrow flew so high that even people who were far away could see the red circle of light created by the whistling arrow. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but look into the distance, wanting to see who was coming. As for attacking Shadowless right now, Shui Lingzi really didn't think about it. If she hurt Shadowless and the person who came was too strong, wouldn't that be terrible? Shui Lingzi didn't have to wait for long before a figure shot over from the distance. Although the two didn't get close, Shui Lingzi's face already changed. The person's speed was extremely fast. In just a few leaps, a beggar-like person already arrived in front of everyone. The old beggar came to the front of the crowd and stretched. Then he turned to look at Shadowless and said lazily, Shadowless, what happened? You disturbed this old beggar's sleep. Shadowless cupped his fists and said, Master, these two are Taingongman's Shui Lingzi and Fire Spirit. They have something to ask Master. The old beggar turned his head to look at Shui Ling, first picking his ear, then lightly asking, Shui Ling, what business do you have with the old beggar? Shui Lingzi's eyes narrowed and asked in shock, Senior, could it be Du Wu Bag? The old beggar smiled. I didn't think there would be someone who knows me. Hearing Du Wu Bao's confirmation, Water Spirit cupped her fists and said, So, it was Senior Du. I've been disrespectful. Du Wu Bao ignored Shui Lingzi and turned to look at Shadowless. So why are you looking for me? Hearing this, Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and sneered. Shui Lingzi, by the way, why are you looking for my master? Hearing Shadowless's question, Shui Lingzi's expression changed. After a while, she forced a smile and said, Nothing. Junior was just discussing something with Brother Shadowless. Du Wu Bag shook his head and looked around. His eyes suddenly lit up and he waved his hand at Shadowless. Take your time, I'll go talk to an old friend. In the time it took for him to speak, Du Wu Dai did not seem to exert much strength in his feet, but he suddenly rushed in front of Wu Lai. Wu Lai, I didn't think you'd come today. Du Wu Bag suddenly laughed and pointed at Wu Lai. You old man, didn't you say you were going into seclusion to cultivate? Why did you suddenly come out? After hearing Du Wu Ho's words, Wu Lai suddenly sneered. Du Wu Ho, you old man, I thought you were long gone. I didn't expect you to still be alive. How strange. Du Wu Bag sat down next to Wu Lai and said loudly to Wu Kadi, This old beggar loves to drink. You go get some wine. Seeing Du Wu Bag daring to order him, Wu Kadi was furious and was about to retort when Wu Lai said, Go, what are you standing there for? Hearing this, Wu Kadi was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly left. Looking at Wu Kadi's back, Du Wu Bao smiled and said, Your nephew doesn't seem to be very obedient. Wu Lai sneered and pointed at Shadowless. Your disciple doesn't seem to be very obedient either. Shui Lingzi looked at Shadowless. Her aura had already disappeared without a trace. She naturally knew what kind of person Duwu Bag was. If she dared to use that aura in front of Duwu Bag, she would definitely be beaten up. After a while, Shui Lingzi sighed. Shadowless, since you've already asked your master to come out, then I don't think you have a choice. What do you want? Shadowless shook his head. Shui Lingzi, don't ask me what I want. You should ask yourself what you want. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi was stunned and asked in confusion. Brother Shadowless, could it be that you don't know what I want to do? Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, I understand. You want to take away Kikiaman's people today, but you're bullying the weak. I can't stand it. What do you think we should do? Looking at the sneering Shadowless, Shui Lingzi sighed. Brother Shadowless, are you satisfied with a level 20 equipment? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Shadowless shook his head. Not satisfied, very dissatisfied. Fire Spirit said angrily, Shadowless brat, do you think level 20 equipment is cabbage? Those are top-tier equipment. Giving you one today is already a great deal for you. What's there to be dissatisfied about? Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Shadowless shook his head and turned to look at Du Wu Dai and Wu Lai. Then he sneered. Shui Lingzi, do you think my master's martial arts are lower than Wu Lai's? After hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi silently shook her head. Du Wu Bao and Wu Lai were of the same generation. In terms of martial arts, although the two of them had never officially competed, but based on their reputations, there should be not much difference between them. Seeing Shui Lingzi nod, Shadowless sneered. Since my master's martial arts aren't lower than Wu Lai's, then why did we get less equipment than the Wu clan? Hearing Shadowless words, Shui Lingzi could only sigh in her heart. If she knew this would happen, she definitely wouldn't have agreed to give the Wu clan 2 level 20 equipment. At that time, it was only a temporary measure, so he reluctantly agreed. Chapter 466. In order to get rid of the Wu family, Water Spirit offered those conditions. Water Spirit thought that this matter was over, but she never thought that this was just the beginning. Water Spirit gave the Wu family 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. It was because of the Wu family's strength that Water Spirit gave such high conditions. However, Shadowless was also strong now, so he was asking for 2 level 20 equipment. Water Spirit thought for a moment before letting out a sigh. She cupped her fist toward Shadowless and said, Brother Shadowless, isn't 2 pieces of level 20 equipment a bit too much? Can we discuss and give you 1 piece of level 20 equipment and 2 pieces of level 15 equipment? Shadowless shook his head. Our strength is about the same as the Wu family, so why are we getting so much less? Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing with a cold smile. If others find out that you gave the Wu clan 2 pieces of level 20 equipment and only gave us 1 piece of level 20 equipment, wouldn't we lose a lot of face? Shui Lingzi sighed. She knew that Shadowless was right. Face was very important in the Jianghu. Even if you had to starve for 3 days, you wouldn't want to lose face. Brother Shadowless, I'm sure you know that crafting level 20 equipment isn't an easy task. How about this? I'll give you a level 20 equipment first, and then I'll give you a level 20 equipment with both hands in the future. Hearing Water Spirit's suggestion, Shadowless nodded and slowly said, Sure, but those 2 level 15 equipment will have to be our interest. Fire Spirit couldn't take it anymore and roared, Shadowless brat, what do you think level 15 equipment is? Do you think it fell from the sky? Shadowless shook his head. I don't care where it came from. I just want to know. Since I promised you guys to delay the delivery of another level 20 equipment for a year, you guys have to promise me that you'll pay me the interest within that year. Nonsense. Hearing this, the Fire Spirit could no longer hold it in. He stomped on the ground and shot towards Shadowless like a cannonball. At this time, a black light flashed in the distance, and an object shot towards Fire Spirit like lightning. Water Spirit saw that the situation was bad and quickly yelled, Watch out, hidden weapons! When Water Spirit shouted, Fire Spirit also felt that something was wrong. He forcefully stopped himself from charging forward and dodged, but it was already too late. The item brushed past his left arm. Seeing this, Water Spirit quickly went up to support Fire Spirit and asked with concern, "How are you?" Fire Spirit Z frowned as his right hand tightly held his left arm. After a while, he slowly let go. Water Spirit Z saw that his left arm had been injured by that object. Shui Lingzi was about to ask again when Du Wu Bao, who was talking to Wu Lai by the bonfire, suddenly said in a cold voice, "This old beggar hates sneak attacks the most. This time I'm teaching you a lesson, but if there's a next time, humph." After hearing Du Wudai's words, Fire Spirit Z was about to angrily rebuke him, but he was quickly stopped by Water Spirit Z. "Senior, this junior's brother has a bad temper. Please don't blame him." Humph. Du Wudai didn't answer Water Spirit Z's words and only coldly snorted as a reply. Seeing Du Wudai's arrogant appearance, even though Water Spirit was angry, she knew that if they dared to attack again, it wouldn't just be her shoulder that was injured. Thinking about this, Water Spirit Z suddenly turned to Shadowless and bitterly smiled. "Brother Shadowless, you win. I promise to give you 2 level 20 equipment. Is that okay?" Hearing Water Spirit Z's words, Shadowless nodded with satisfaction and coldly smiled. "Water Spirit, I know that even for the Heaven's Craftsman Gate, it's not easy to forge a piece of level 20 equipment. So, hearing this, Water Spirit Z was ecstatic and quickly asked, "Brother Shadowless, are you willing to give me 1 less level 20 equipment?" Shadowless shook his head. "No, it's not easy for Tiangongman to forge a level 20 equipment. I'm afraid that you guys will go back on your words, so we should make a contract to prevent you, Tiangongman, from playing us." After hearing Shadowless's words, Water Spirit Z's body trembled. He had thought that Shadowless would take the initiative to reduce a piece of level 20 equipment for the sake of the Heaven's Craftsman faction. Little did he expect that Shadowless would be such a nice person. Not only did he not reduce the equipment by level 20, he even wanted to add insult to injury and prevent any changes in the Heaven's Craftsman faction. Water Spirit Z was angry, but there was nothing she could do. She could only bitterly smile and say, "Brother Shadowless, I think we should forget about the contract. We Tiangongmen have some reputation in the South County. How can we go back on our words? Don't worry, as long as this matter is resolved, I will definitely send someone to deliver the equipment." Shadowless shook his head. "You just said that even for Tiangongmen, it's not easy to forge so many level 20 equipment. I'm worried that if you Tiangongmen really can't forge so many level 20 equipment, then you'll go back on your words." To be honest, Water Spirit Z really did have this plan. Everyone had made a verbal agreement, and there was no real evidence. If the Tiangongmen really couldn't forge so many level 20 equipment, then even if they went back on their words, no one would be able to prove it. The Tiangongmen would go back on their words. Water Spirit Z sighed. "Brother Shadowless, don't you even trust me?" Shadowless sighed. "I used to believe you, a Heaven's Craftsman Gate consecrator, would keep his word. However, what you did just now really disappointed me." Shadowless suddenly took a step forward and sneered at Water Spirit Z. "Water Spirit, let me ask you, if my master didn't appear, would you still agree to give me the equipment?" Hearing Shadowless' question, Water Spirit Z's face turned red. Before Shadowless' master appeared, he didn't want to give Shadowless a single piece of equipment. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attacked Shadowless. Du Wudai's martial arts were just too high. Even if he and Fire Spirit Z worked together, it would still be hard to stop him. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. In order to achieve her goal of bringing Kikyaman back, Water Spirit Z agreed to give Shadowless 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. If Du Wudai didn't come, then Water Spirit Z wouldn't have given Shadowless a single piece of equipment. Seeing that Water Spirit Z didn't speak, Shadowless sneered again. "Water Spirit, I didn't misjudge you, right? If my master didn't come, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to get a single piece of equipment." Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing. "Water Spirit, you say it yourself? After so many things, do you still think you're worthy of my trust?" Chapter 467. After hearing Shadowless' words, Water Spirit shook her head with a bitter smile. The reason why I didn't agree to Brother Shadowless' conditions was because it's really hard for Tyngongmen to make so many level 20 equipment. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to fulfill Brother Shadowless' conditions. That's why I didn't agree to your conditions. Shadowless sighed. Water Spirit, you said it yourself. Even for Tyngongmen, it's not easy to make so many level 20 equipment. For my equipment, why wouldn't I be more careful? I think it's better to sign a contract first. That way, you, Tyngongmen, won't go back on your word. Water Spirit heard this and lowered her head to think. Fire Spirit suddenly said angrily, Shadowless brat, when have we Tyngongmen ever gone back on our word? Shadowless shook his head. I don't know, but I'm a very careful person. Only by signing a contract can I be completely at ease. Fire Spirit yelled, Shadowless brat, what if we don't sign a contract? Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Shadowless's face suddenly turned cold. He turned to look in the direction of the Seven Possibilities sect and said indifferently, then don't even think about taking the people of the Seven Possibilities sect away. You dare. Fire Spirit stepped forward and said angrily, Shadowless brat, you really think that you can do whatever you want just because your master is here? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. We Tyngongmen aren't pushovers. If you really want to become enemies with us Tyngongmen, then we Tyngongmen will accompany you to the end. Shadowless shook his head. You can't blame us for this. It's your Heaven's Craftsman faction that went too far. I merely helped out when I saw injustice. Even if outsiders know about this, they'll praise me for being loyal. Shadowless paused and then continued. On the other hand, once the people in Jianghu know that the dignified Heaven's Craftsman sect has done such a shameless thing, I'm afraid your Heaven's Craftsman sect won't have a good ending. Water Spirit suddenly raised her head and pushed Fire Spirit aside. She looked at Shadowless and sighed. Brother Shadowless, I can promise to give you the equipment. I think we should forget about the contract. Shadowless shook his head and refused. No, if there's no contract, then we'll be wasting our time. Water Spirit nodded and walked up to Shadowless's side. She lowered her voice and whispered to Shadowless. Brother Shadowless, can we talk a bit further? Shadowless looked at Water Spirit and asked coldly, Water Spirit, what do you want to do? Water Spirit shook her head. Shadowless, Brother Shadowless, I just want to talk to you for a bit. Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and frowned for a moment before nodding. Shadowless masters is his master's masters. Water Spirit nodded. Of course I know. Don't worry. I really just want to talk to you for a bit. Shadowless saw that Shui Lingzi didn't seem to be lying, so he nodded and let the others lean together. Water Spirit said in a low voice, Brother Shadowless, I can promise you the equipment, and I can also promise you the contract, but you must promise me one thing before I can promise you the contract. Shadowless nodded. Okay, tell me your condition. Seeing Shadowless agree, Shui Lingzi said in a low voice, Brother Shadowless, you also know that even though the Heaven's Craftsman faction is wealthy, it's not easy to forge so many pieces of level 20 equipment at once. So I want to write a contract with Brother Shadowless and not let the Wu family know. Can you agree to this condition? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless was stunned for a moment before laughing in his heart, feeling that he had made the right choice. If he guessed correctly, when Water Spirit said this, she didn't want to give the Wu family any more equipment. Thinking of this, Shadowless rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, he was careful. Otherwise, today's effort would have been in vain. However, whether or not the Tyngongmen gave the Wu family equipment didn't matter to Shadowless. As long as he got his own equipment, that was more important than anything else. Shadowless nodded. Okay, I promise you. Shadowless paused for a moment, then looked around and asked in confusion, What's the matter? There are so many people here. How can we write a contract? Water Spirit smiled and whispered, Brother Shadowless, once this matter is over and the Wu family leaves, I'll write a contract for Brother Shadowless. What do you think? Shadowless couldn't help but frown. He carefully thought about Water Spirit's words to prevent himself from being tricked. After a while, Shadowless sneered, Good, Water Spirit, you dare to trick me. Seeing that her plan had been seen through by Shadowless, Shui Lingzi was startled. She forced a smile and said, "Brother Shadowless, where did this come from? You also know that it's very difficult for the Heaven's Craftsman Gate to take out so many pieces of equipment at once. However, I'm very sincere to Brother Shadowless, so I agreed to sign a contract with you." Shadowless sneered. "Shui Lingzi, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child that you can deceive?" Water Spirit quickly said, "Brother Shadowless, that's not right. Why would I trick Brother Shadowless? As long as this matter is over, I'll definitely write a contract for the 2 equipment. Is there something wrong with that?" Shadowless suddenly patted Water Spirit's shoulder. "Water Spirit, I trusted you so much, but even now, you still want to trick me. This really disappoints me." Water Spirit shook her head. "Brother Shadowless, I'm definitely not lying to you." Shadowless sneered. "According to what you said, after this matter is over, you'll write a contract with me. But what if after this matter is over and you don't write one? What should I do?" Shadowless paused here. He didn't wait for Water Spirit to speak and continued. "Water Spirit, when this matter is over, even if I want to stop you, I'm afraid it's impossible. Even if you don't write a contract, what can I do to you?" Water Spirit quickly waved her hand. "Impossible? I definitely won't do such a thing. Brother Shadowless, as soon as this matter is over, I'll write a contract for Brother Shadowless." Shadowless looked at Water Spirit, and after a while, he suddenly said, "Water Spirit, I suddenly find that my trust in you is getting lower and lower." Hearing this, Water Spirit sighed. "Brother Shadowless, what should I do to make you believe my sincerity?" Shadowless heard this and shook his head. Chapter 468. Shadowless sighed. "Shui Lingzi, I can only trust you if you sign a contract." Shui Lingzi smiled. "Sure, but I've already said that I'll write a contract for Brother Shadowless so that Brother Shadowless can rest assured." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless sneered. "Shui Lingzi, you're not letting me rest assured by doing this." Saying this, Shadowless sighed. "What if you don't give me a contract after we're done? What should I do?" Shui Lingzi hurriedly waved her hand. "That won't happen. Us Gongmen always keep our word. We'll definitely do it." Shadowless sighed. "Although I believe that Gongmen always keep their word, I don't really believe your words." After hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi also sighed. "Brother Shadowless, to be honest, I don't really believe you either. If I write a contract in advance, and you don't keep it, then wouldn't I have given up 2 level 20 equipment for nothing?" Shadowless shook his head. "Shui Lingzi, don't worry, I, Shadowless, am also a man of my word." After saying this, the 2 looked at each other, and after a while, they both shook their heads. Shui Lingzi sighed. "Brother Shadowless, if I lie to you, then you won't lose anything. But if you lie to me, then I'll lose 2 level 20 equipment. No matter how you look at it, us Gongmen will lose out." Shadowless shook his head. "You're wrong. I definitely won't lie to you. If you write a contract now, then I definitely won't care about your business." At this point, Shadowless sighed and turned to look at Water Spirit with a sneer. "But you're different. Level 20 equipment is indeed difficult to make. If the Heaven's Craftsman Gate can't make that many level 20 equipment, then we can only deny it. That's why you Gongmen have the biggest chance of denying it." Shui Lingzi shook her head. "Brother Shadowless, you can't say that. Even if level 20 equipment is hard to make, it's not impossible for us Gongmen to make them. As long as Brother Shadowless keeps his promise, I guarantee that you'll get 2 level 20 equipment." After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless suddenly turned to Wu Kadi and said, "Since your Heaven's Craftsman faction can forge so many pieces of equipment, why don't you write down our and Wu family's contracts at the same time, so that our 2 families can rest assured?" Hearing Shadowless's question, Water Spirit paused for a moment before letting out a sigh. "Brother Shadowless, I won't hide it from you. Level 20 equipment is indeed very difficult to forge. Even if I can forge this many pieces of level 20 equipment, it will still take a long time. So, I want to make a promise with Brother Shadowless. When this matter is over, I'll give Brother Shadowless 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. After the Shadowless brothers' equipment is paid, the Wu family's equipment might be given to them later. After all, it takes a certain amount of time to forge equipment. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless suddenly sneered. He turned to Shui Lingzi and said word by word. Shui Lingzi, I think you don't want to give the Wu family equipment, so you're playing this trick? Hearing this, Shui Lingzi's expression changed, and she quickly shook her head. Brother Shadowless, what are you talking about? Since we promised the Wu clan's equipment, how can the Heaven's Craftsman faction go back on their word? It's just that making equipment takes time, so we'll give them the equipment later. It's not like we won't give it to them. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless shook his head and sneered. Shui Lingzi, don't lie to me. You want to make a separate contract with me? It's clear that you don't want to give the Wu family equipment. Do you really think I can't see that? Seeing Shadowless's bright eyes, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed and said in a low voice, Brother Shadowless, since you can see through it, then I won't hide it from you. The Tiangongmen don't have much materials left, so it's not easy to make so many high-level equipment. I'm also worried that the Tiangongmen don't have enough materials to make so many high-level equipment, so I want to go back and take a look before making a decision. Shadowless sneered. If my guess is right, and your Heaven's Craftsman faction doesn't have enough high-level materials to forge so many level 20 equipment, what will you do? Are you going to give up on the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from the Wu clan? Hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before waving her hand. Brother Shadowless, that's impossible. I'm just worried. I think that with the Tiangongmen's storage, they can definitely make so many equipment. Brother Shadowless, you can rest assured. Shadowless suddenly sneered and asked, I'm saying, if the Tiangongmen can't make so many high-level equipment, then what will you do? Being chased by Shadowless, Shui Lingzi's forehead was covered in cold sweat. She quickly waved her hand. Impossible, that's impossible. Brother Shadowless, you don't have to worry. Shadowless shook his head and asked again, I'm saying, if you really can't make so many level 20 equipment, then what will you do? Seeing that Shadowless wanted to know the answer, Shui Lingzi thought for a moment before replying with a smile. If the Tiangongmen can't make so many equipment, then we'll compensate the Wu family for their loss. We can't let the Wu family suffer a loss. Shadowless suddenly sneered. Compensate? How? Using 2 level 10 equipment for 1 level 20 equipment? Is that how it should be compensated? Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand. How could that be? At the very least, you would need 2 pieces of level 15 equipment to replace a level 21. Shadowless nodded and suddenly asked, Then did you ask the Wu family before doing this? Seeing that Shadowless kept asking about the Wu family, Shui Lingzi was a bit annoyed. Brother Shadowless, the Tiangongmen will naturally take care of the Wu family's matter. I'll pay for your 2 level 20 equipment as soon as possible. As for the rest, the Tiangongmen will naturally have a way to take care of it. Shadowless shook his head. What way? If the Tiangongmen can't make so many equipment, then they'll definitely go back on their word. Shui Lingzi was really angry. Brother Shadowless, what do you want? I've already agreed to your conditions. Are you still not satisfied? Shadowless shook his head. Shui Lingzi, you said you've already agreed to my conditions, but what conditions did you agree to? Have you written the contract yet? Chapter 469. Water Spirit said angrily, Brother Shadowless, didn't I already promise you that after this matter is settled, I will write a contract for you? Shadowless shook his head and sneered, I don't agree. We must write it now. Otherwise, our conditions will be voided. Shui Lingzi stared at Shadowless, panting heavily. After a while, she suddenly said, In front of everyone, if I were to write a contract with you, wouldn't everyone be able to see it? At that time, they will all come looking for me to write a contract. What should I do then? Shadowless shook his head. I don't care about this matter, but my contract must be written now. Otherwise, our conditions will be voided. Water Spirit heard this and took a deep breath to calm her anger. Then she said softly, I already said that it's not that we Taiyangamen can't immediately take out the equipment, but that time doesn't allow for it. Creating so many level 20 equipment is definitely not something that can be completed in a short period of time. Therefore, the equipment that we give to you must be given in a sequence. If I write a contract with Brother Shadowless, once they find out, they will definitely pester me to write one for them. Not only that, they will also demand to receive the equipment as soon as possible. This is something that Taiyangamen can't do. Therefore, we can only stall for time to ease the pressure on the Taiyangamen. Brother Shadowless, can't you understand this? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Shadowless suddenly sighed. Water Spirit, you're right. Everyone wants to get the equipment as soon as possible, but if you lie to us, then we will be happy for nothing. Water Spirit shook her head. That won't happen. I already said that because of the manufacturing process, we can't immediately take out all the equipment. We must have a sequence. No matter if it's sooner or later, I can guarantee that everyone's equipment will be delivered to their hands. Shadowless sighed. Water Spirit, I can understand what you're saying, but what if you really don't give us the equipment? What can we do? Water Spirit said seriously. Brother Shadowless, could it be that you don't even trust the Taiyangamen? Shadowless shook his head. It's not that I don't trust the Taiyangamen, but I don't trust you. Speaking up to here, Shadowless turned to look at Water Spirit and said with a smile, Water Spirit, I also know that even if a level 20 equipment appears, there will be a lot of people fighting to buy it. I believe that everyone understands the value of level 20 equipment. I also know that even the Taiyangamen don't make more than 2 level 20 equipment every year. Shadowless paused for a moment, then suddenly sneered. Water Spirit, level 20 equipment is so precious, but you took out so many today. I'm worried that you won't be able to handle it when you go back, right? After hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi sighed in her heart. Shadowless was right. Level 20 equipment was not like cabbages that could be taken out at any time. With the wealth of the Taiyangamen, they can only make 2 to 3 level 20 equipment every year. It was easy to imagine how precious level 20 equipment was. But Shadowless agreed to give out so many level 20 equipment today. Water Spirit had a headache just thinking about it. The Taiyangamen didn't belong to his family. Even if he agreed to give out so many level 20 equipment, would the others agree? If the other Taiyangamen didn't agree and only Water Spirit agreed, it would be useless. So Water Spirit's attitude right now was to take one step at a time and deal with the crisis in front of them first. No matter what, bringing Kikyaman's people back was the most important thing. If Kikyaman could easily make level 20 equipment, then the equipment promised to everyone would be easily completed. But if Kikyaman's secret was fake, then Water Spirit could only take the blame and go into hiding. As for the equipment, if Water Spirit went into hiding, then the equipment didn't count. But if there was a contract and Water Spirit wrote it on behalf of the Taiyangamen, then even if he went into hiding, the Wu family and Shadowless could find the Taiyangamen with the contract. If the Taiyangamen wanted to stay in the South region, then they would have to take out the equipment. It was because of this that Water Spirit didn't want to write the contract. He was trying his luck. If he was lucky and Kikyaman's secret was real, then he would become the hero of the Taiyangamen. If the Chichao sect secret was fake, then he could just go into hiding and it wouldn't matter. The most important thing right now was the contract. As long as there was no contract, even if the Wu family and Shadowless found the Taiyangamen, it would be useless. Thinking to hear, Water Spirit sighed. He felt that it was too hard for him. He deeply regretted that if he brought more people, then this wouldn't have happened. But since it had already happened, he could only try his best to solve it. As for returning empty-handed, Water Spirit didn't even think about it. Once Kikyaman's people were taken away, if their secret was real, then the Taiyangamen would be finished. Seeing that Water Spirit didn't speak, Shadowless suddenly sneered and said, Water Spirit, did I hit the nail on the head? Is that why you don't dare to answer? Shadowless's words immediately woke Water Spirit up. He thought about it carefully and said, Brother Shadowless, as long as you can think of a way to not be found out when we write the contract, then it's fine even if we write it for you. Water Spirit wanted to kick this problem to Shadowless, because in this state, as long as he took out a pen and paper to write the contract, the Wu family would definitely find out. Shadowless sneered, Water Spirit, I only want you to write the contract now so that both of us can fulfill our promise. As for under what circumstances, that's your problem. Hearing this, Water Spirit cursed in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. He could only whisper, Brother Shadowless, please be understanding and think of a good idea. I'll write the contract for Brother Shadowless alone. Shadowless shook his head. I can't think of anything. You can think of it yourself. Water Spirit saw this and asked, if that's the case, then let's wait until we take away Kikyaman's people and write the contract for Brother Shadowless. What do you think? Shadowless shook his head. Nothing. If you take away Kikyaman and don't give me the contract, then I can't do anything to you. Water Spirit quickly waved his hand. That won't happen. At this point, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing. Let's not talk about other people's equipment, but we Taiyangongmen can still afford Brother Shadowless equipment. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless looked at Wu Kadi and sneered, what about the Wu family? Chapter 470. Shui Lingzi smiled. Since I promised Brother Shadowless to give you the equipment first, then the Wu family's matter can only be delayed. At this point, Shui Lingzi paused and turned to Shadowless with a smile. Could it be that Brother Shadowless wants to trade with the Wu family and delay your equipment a bit? Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, I don't think it's as simple as delaying the equipment a bit, right? Shui Lingzi smiled. What's not simple about it? Could it be that Brother Shadowless thinks there's a problem? Shadowless shook his head and suddenly said, I don't care about other people's equipment, but I must get mine as soon as possible. Shui Lingzi smiled and nodded. Sure, no problem. Didn't I just promise you? Shadowless sneered. I'm talking about a written agreement. Must you write one before I can rest assured? Hearing Shadowless' request, Shui Lingzi's face showed a trace of awkwardness. Brother Shadowless, anything can be discussed, but you also know that I don't want the Wu family to know when we're doing this. Shadowless shook his head. I don't care about this. As long as you write the agreement, everything else can be discussed. Shui Lingzi stared at Shadowless for a while before nodding. In that case, in order to make you feel assured, I can write the agreement first, but you have to agree to one condition. Shadowless asked, what condition? Shui Lingzi smiled. You just have to say in front of everyone that you don't care about this matter anymore. After we take away the Kikyaman people, I'll immediately write you the agreement. Shadowless was furious. After talking for so long, it was still back to square one. He still wanted them to take away the Kikyaman people and write him the agreement. Shui Lingzi, I don't agree. If you keep talking like that, then we don't have to talk anymore. Shui Lingzi smiled and waved his hand. Brother Shadowless, I've already thought about it. Actually, even if we take away the Kikyaman people with your martial arts, even if I don't write you the agreement, you can still take them back. I'm not wrong about this, am I? Hearing this, Shadowless couldn't help but frown. Shui Lingzi was right. Even if they took away the Kikyaman people with his and his master's martial arts, they could definitely take them back and make Shui Lingzi's plan fail. Although it seemed like this was the problem on the surface, Shadowless didn't believe it. Shui Lingzi was very cunning. For him to say this method so, there must be something wrong. Shadowless thought about it for a long time, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong. Looking at Shui Lingzi's smiling expression, Shadowless was even more certain that Shui Lingzi had some kind of scheme waiting for him. But what kind of plan was it? Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly asked, Shui Lingzi, what do you want? Shui Lingzi shook his head. I don't want anything. Since you said you want to write the agreement, of course I'll satisfy your conditions. Could it be that Brother Shadowless isn't satisfied with this? Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Shadowless quickly thought about what Shui Lingzi's plan was. But Shadowless really couldn't think of what Shui Lingzi's plan was. If Shui Lingzi took away the Kikyaman people and didn't give Shadowless the agreement, then the Kikyaman people would definitely be taken back by Shadowless. This way, Shui Lingzi's plan would completely fail. Looking at the hesitant Shadowless, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed. Brother Shadowless, don't hesitate anymore. I really don't have any other ideas this time. Shadowless looked at Shui Lingzi and asked doubtfully, Shui Lingzi, you really don't have any other tricks? Water Spirit nodded and replied flatly, no. Shadowless was curious. You're really that kind? Shui Lingzi sighed. Brother Shadowless, then tell me, other than giving you the agreement, do I have any other ideas? Shadowless sneered, no. Hearing Shadowless's answer, Shui Lingzi helplessly shrugged. Since you know there's no other way, why don't I just give you a written agreement? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless went silent for a while before suddenly nodding. All right, I promise you. Then it's settled. After saying this, Shadowless suddenly turned to Shui Lingzi and asked doubtfully, Shui Lingzi, I know you're definitely not that kind. Since I've already promised you, can you tell me what you're thinking? Shui Lingzi shook her head. I'm not thinking of anything. I just want to take the Kikyaman people back as soon as possible. Other than that, I don't have any other requests. Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Shadowless turned to look at Wu Kadi and the people from the Godly Blade sect before saying in a low voice, Then I wish you the best of luck in completing your mission. Shui Lingzi nodded silently and cupped her hands towards Shadowless before walking towards the Godly Sword Gate people. After the incident with Shadowless, Shui Lingzi understood that none of the people here today were simple people. She thought that Shadowless would be easier to deal with since he came alone. But in the end, he didn't come alone. Next was the Godly Sword Gate people. The leader of the Godly Sword Gate was Dao. Shui Lingzi walked in front of Dao and was silent for a while before suddenly speaking. What does your Godly Sword Gate want to do? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Dao was stunned for a moment. He then cupped his fists and said, Senior Shui Lingzi, we came this time to make friends with the Seven Skills sect. Is that so? Shui Lingzi sneered. Your Godly Sword Gate people came this time just to make friends with the Kikyaman people? Dao smiled. If the Kikyaman people agree, we will even invite the Kikyaman people to our Godly Sword Gate. Water Spirit coldly laughed as she said, Then I'm afraid that your plan will fail. We'll take away the Seven Skills Sect's people because they're related to Sect Master Han's disappearance. We have to take them back and investigate this matter. Dao nodded. Sect Leader Han's matter indeed needs to be investigated. But from Junior's point of view, there is no need for Senior to take the Kikyaman people back. Kikyaman already explained the matter clearly and proved that they have nothing to do with this matter. Shui Lingzi stared at Dao and sneered. If I want to take the Kikyaman people away, do you think you can stop me? Dao shook his head. Senior is following the orders of the Tiangongmen. Junior is also following the orders of the Godly Sword Gate. If Junior has offended you, please forgive me. Chapter 471. Water Spirit sneered. You want to stop me from taking away Kikyaman's people? Dao shook his head. It's not that I want to stop you, but I have orders. Fire Spirit took a step forward and said angrily, Brat, you think you can stop us? Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Dao shook his head again. No. Fire Spirit sneered. Since you know you can't, then why are you still talking nonsense? Dao turned his head and looked at his brothers behind him and suddenly asked loudly, Brothers of the Godly Sword Sect, are you afraid? Just as Dao's voice fell, the Godly Sword Sect's disciples behind him immediately roared in unison. No, Dao shouted again. The enemy is stronger than us. If we fight, I'm afraid none of us will be able to return. Are you afraid? No. Almost without any hesitation, the Godly Sword Sect's disciples shouted in unison. Hearing this, Dao nodded with satisfaction, then turned to Shui Lingzi and cupped his fists. Senior Shui Lingzi, as you can see, if you try to stop us, we will fight to the death, even if we are all annihilated. Seeing this scene, Shuei's spirit couldn't help but frown. Although Yin Dao's martial arts weren't that good, but if she killed them all, Shuei's spirit wouldn't dare to do so. The Godly Sword sect wasn't a small sect. It was a big sect that could fight against the Sky Sword sect. Even if the Tiangongmen were strong, they specialized in making equipment. In terms of martial arts, although they weren't bad, they couldn't be compared to the Godly Sword sect. If Shuei's spirit dared to kill all of them today, then once the Godly Sword sect knew about this, it would definitely lead to the retaliation of the Godly Sword sect. Given the formidable strength of the Godly Knife School, it was highly possible that the Heaven's Craftsman School would be defeated and disintegrated. If they didn't have an excuse, then no matter how strong the Godly Sword sect was, they wouldn't dare to openly cause trouble for the Tiangongmen. But if Shuei Lingzi dared to make a move against the Godly Sword sect, then the Godly Sword sect would have an excuse to not show any mercy. Thinking of this, Shuei Lingzi sighed. She thought it would be a simple task, but she didn't expect it to be so complicated. The Wu family had used 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to fight their way over. Shadowless had also used 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to deal with them. Now, only the members of the Godly Blade sect were left. However, although the martial arts of the Godly Knife clan's people were low, their tempers were quite bad. From the looks of it, they were going to fight to the death. Water Spirit and Fire Spirit's martial arts were very strong. If they really wanted to deal with the Godly Knife faction, they wouldn't even need to attack together. Just one of them would be enough to wipe out the entire Godly Knife faction. But can they do that? The answer was that it was impossible. If they did, then the Tiangongmen would suffer a devastating blow. Looking at the expressionless Yin Dao, Shuei Lingzi suddenly sighed. Yin Dao, the Godly Sword sect, and the Tiangongmen have been good friends for generations. After so many years, our relationship has always been good. Today, can you let us have the Kikyaman people? Yin Dao shook his head. No, the sect leader has already given the order. If we can't bring the Kikyaman people back, then we brothers won't be able to go back. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Shuei Lingzi was shocked. The Godly Sword sect had given such a ruthless order. They must be determined to win. Under such circumstances, it would be very difficult to make the Godly Sword sect bend the rules. Shuei Lingzi frowned deeply. He didn't say anything because he didn't know what to say. The Godly Sword sect was so stubborn. How could he make them take a step back? After thinking for a long time, Shuei Lingzi suddenly sighed. She looked up at Yin Dao and sighed. What if I use a level 20 equipment to exchange for a promise from the Godly Sword sect? Yin Dao shook his head no. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Shuei Lingzi asked doubtfully why. Yin Dao pointed at Shadowless in the distance and sneered. You think they are stronger than us? Hearing this analogy, Shuei Lingzi immediately had a bad feeling. However, she still forced a smile and said, How could it be? The Godly Sword sect is very powerful. In terms of martial arts, they are on par with the Sky Sword sect. Who would dare to say that such a large sect is weak? Hearing Shuei Lingzi's answer, Yin Dao shook his head. No, you think that our Godly Sword sect is weaker than them. Shuei Lingzi hurriedly explained. You are wrong. Why would I think that? In the South region, I believe that no one would say that the Godly Sword sect is weak. Yin Dao sneered and turned to look at Shuei Lingzi. He suddenly asked, Since we are not weaker than them, why can they get 2 level 20 equipment while our Godly Sword sect can only get 1 level 20 equipment? Although Shuei Lingzi had expected Yin Dao's words, she still couldn't help but sigh in her heart when she heard it. He had long since expected that Silver Knife would definitely be dissatisfied with a single piece of level 20 equipment and would want to ask for more. Just as Water Spirit was about to speak, Fire Spirit on the side flew into a rage. He suddenly punched out and smashed towards the silver blade. What an arrogant brat. You want 2 level 20 equipment? Let's see if you have the ability. Yin Dao's martial arts were not on the same level as Fire Spirit's. Fire Spirit's punch was very fast. Before Silver Knife could react, Fire Spirit's punch had already landed on his shoulder. He only had time to let out a scream before he was sent flying. He flew 3 to 4 meters before falling to the ground. Seeing that his punch had succeeded, Fire Spirit didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he stood on the spot and shouted, "Brat, now you know how strong I am. Let's see if you still dare to ask for 2 level 20 equipment." Dao pushed away his brothers who wanted to help him up and stood up by himself. He slowly walked in front of Fire Spirit and sneered. "Fire Spirit, your punch was too light. It seems like you didn't eat breakfast." Hearing Dao's words, Fire Spirit's cold smile froze. But soon, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Fire Spirit snorted and threw another punch. Even if Dao wasn't injured, he wouldn't be able to block Fire Spirit's attack. Not to mention that he was already injured and couldn't move freely. He was even less of a match for Fire Spirit. As expected, Dao was once again sent flying by Fire Spirit's punch. He screamed and fell to the ground far away. Looking at Dao, who couldn't get up from the ground, Fire Spirit sneered, "Brat, let's see how many punches you can block." Before Fire Spirit could finish his words, Silver Knife had already stood up shakily again. Chapter 472. Under Fire Spirit's shocked gaze, Silver Blade once again appeared in front of him. "I've long heard of Fire Spirit's martial arts, but after seeing it today, you're only SOSO. I took 2 punches from you, and it wasn't a big deal. Looks like you're just a fake, ha." Looking at the laughing Dao, the Fire Spirit felt as if he had been humiliated. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he clenched his fists. He wanted to give Dao a vicious beating so that this despicable fellow would never be able to speak again. Fire Spirit was about to attack again, but he was stopped by Water Spirit. If there were only people from the Godly Sword sect here today, then even if they killed all of them, no one would know. But now is not the time. The Wu family and Shadowless were watching. Once the Godly Sword sect members were injured or killed, the news would immediately reach the headquarters of the Godly Sword sect. At that time, it would be hard to clean up the mess. Thinking up to this point, Water Spirit turned to Silver Blade and said through gritted teeth, "Silver Blade, 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Are you satisfied now?" Silver Knife wiped the stain from the corner of his mouth and shook his head. "Water Spirit, I could have promised you 2 level 20 equipment, but as you can see, I've been heavily injured by Fire Spirit. Do you think I'll just let go like this?" Fire Spirit on the side said angrily, "Then what do you want?" Silver Blade shook his head. "I don't want anything. I only know that I can't take those 2 punches for nothing." Water Spirit sighed. She clearly saw Fire Spirit's attack just now. Although it looked fierce and powerful, the truth was that Fire Spirit didn't want to do anything to Dao. Those 2 punches just now only left Dao with some external injuries. For martial artists like them, they only needed to rest for 2 or 3 days before they would be able to recover. If Fire Spirit really attacked, with the difference in their martial arts, Fire Spirit's 1 punch would have sent Silver Blade to heaven. But after hearing Silver Blade's words, Water Spirit understood that this was not going to be easy. Although Fire Spirit didn't hit hard, Silver Blade wouldn't let him go. He would definitely compensate him. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sighed and asked slowly, "Just now, my brother was indeed in the wrong, so I hope Brother Dao can understand. Please don't take it to heart and hurt the harmony between the Tiangongmen and Godly Sword sect." Although Water Spirit spoke politely, how could Dao let go of such a good opportunity? Senior Shui Lingzi, it's not that I don't want to forgive him, but as you can see, just now, when the 2 of us were talking, your brother suddenly attacked me. If it wasn't for my good physique, I'm afraid I would have been killed by him. This matter definitely won't end like this. You Heaven's Craftsman faction must give me an explanation. Otherwise, I'll definitely go back and report to Master that you Heaven's Craftsman faction beat up the people of the Godly Knife faction for no reason. After hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Brother Dao, how could it be so serious? We were just having a simple exchange of pointers. How could it turn into beating up the Godly Blade Sex people? Brother Dao, you mustn't speak carelessly and cause unnecessary trouble." Dao shook his head and said with a sneer, "Fire Spirit is a consecrator of the Tiangongmen, But he actually wanted to exchange pointers with us? Isn't this a joke? Shui Lingzi shook her head. It was just a misunderstanding. Brother Yin Dao, please don't take it to heart. Speaking of this, Shui Lingzi hurriedly took out a porcelain bottle and offered it with both hands. Brother Yin Dao, this is a healing medicine. Please accept it. Without even glancing at the porcelain bottle, Yin Dao said with a sneer, Is this how the Heaven's Craftsman faction does things? You seriously injured me and then gave me a bottle of healing medicine. Is this the end of the matter? Speaking of this, Yin Dao's tone paused, and he once again let out a sneer before continuing. I also have healing medicine, so take back your medicine. If you don't want to give me compensation, then I won't ask for it. You can rest assured. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi was overjoyed. She quickly cupped her fists and said gratefully, Brother Yin Dao is so righteous. This old man really admires you. Yin Dao waved his hand and coldly said, You don't need to admire me, and I don't need you to admire me. I just want to tell you that I don't want your 2 level 20 equipment. Everyone is doing their own thing, and no one owes anyone anything. Hearing Yin Dao's words, the smile on Shui Lingzi's face suddenly froze. After a long time, she forced a smile and said, Brother Yin Dao, what were you saying? We already agreed on this a moment ago, so why did you suddenly change your mind? Yin Dao shook his head. It's not that I've changed. It's just that the attitude of your Heaven's Craftsman faction is really disappointing. You obviously seriously injured me, yet you still want to settle this peacefully. You want to solve this matter with only a bottle of healing medicine. I'm really not satisfied, so I won't cooperate with your Heaven's Craftsman faction. Fire Spirit angrily said, Brat, it's fine if you don't want to cooperate. Who are you trying to scare? At most, we'll just kill you all. Let's see if you still dare to stop us. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Shui Lingzi's expression changed. She wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Yin Dao had already spoken first. Fire Spirit, you're so arrogant. At this point, Yin Dao paused for a moment before he sneered. After that, he stared at Fire Spirit with his eyes wide open and said in a cold voice, Fire Spirit, I'll tell you the truth. Since us brothers came here today, we don't plan on leaving alive. Since you dare to speak such arrogant words, then you can try. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Fire Spirit waved his fists and was about to rush up, but he was pulled back by Shui Lingzi. After pushing Fire Spirit to the side, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Yin Dao and asked in a deep voice, Brother Yin Dao, what do you want? Yin Dao sneered and shook his head. I don't want to do anything. I just want to see what you Taiyangamen want to do after beating me up. Shui Lingzi stared at Yin Dao and suddenly said, You want compensation? Yin Dao nodded. Since you've injured me so badly, it's reasonable for you to compensate me. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. Then she softly asked, How do you want to compensate? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao's face showed a trace of a smile. Yin Dao looked at Shui Lingzi and didn't directly say what the compensation was. Instead, he suddenly asked, Shui Lingzi, what do you think is the most precious thing in this world? Shui Lingzi was stunned for a moment and then shook her head. There are too many precious things in this world. How can you tell which one is the most precious? Yin Dao shook his head. No, there's a most precious thing in this world. Think about it carefully. What is the most precious thing in this world? The thing that you don't want to lose the most? The thing that you're most afraid of losing the most? Chapter 473. Water Spirit was stunned again. She looked at Yin Dao in confusion and asked, Brother Yin Dao, what is the most precious thing? Seeing that Water Spirit couldn't answer, Yin Dao laughed and said loudly, Of course it's my life. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Water Spirit suddenly understood. This answer was definitely correct. Yin Dao didn't wait for Water Spirit to speak and said with a smile, Senior Water Spirit, think about it. If I use a level 50 equipment to exchange for your life, would you agree? Water Spirit immediately shook her head. Of course not. Even if you give me a level 100 equipment, if I'm dead, how can I use it? After saying this, Water Spirit's heart suddenly moved as a bad feeling appeared in her mind. Sure enough, Dao gave her a thumbs up and continued. As expected of Senior, your words are very thorough. Even if it's a level 100 equipment, if you're dead, it's useless. So I think that even a level 100 equipment is insignificant compared to my life. After saying this, Dao turned to look at Water Spirit and asked with a smile, Senior Water Spirit, am I right? Hearing Dao's words, cold sweat appeared on Water Spirit's forehead. She forced a smile and replied, Brother Dao is really wise. I really admire you. Dao sighed, Senior Water Spirit, you don't need to admire me. I just found out about this. When the Fire Spirit attacked me just now, I suddenly realized that if I were to die, I would have nothing left. No matter what good equipment was given to me, I wouldn't be able to use it. Doesn't this mean that my life is the most precious thing in the world? Speaking up to here, Dao paused for a moment, then sighed and turned to Shui Lingzi before continuing. Since my life is the most precious and the Fire Spirit severely injured me, I won't ask for much compensation. I don't want a level 100 equipment. Instead, I'll exchange it for half a piece of level 50 equipment. Your Heaven's Craftsman faction shouldn't have a problem with that, right? Looking at Silverblade, casually asking her to compensate him with a piece of level 50 equipment, Water Spirit had the urge to go up and crush this Silverblade to dust. After a while, Water Spirit suppressed the anger in her heart and asked in a deep voice, Brother Silverblade, have you ever seen level 50 equipment before? Silver Knife shook his head. I've never seen it before. I've never seen such high-level equipment. Water Spirit suddenly sneered. Since you haven't seen such high-level equipment before, how can you have the courage to ask for it? Isn't this a bit too much? Dao turned to Shui Lingzi and coldly asked, Shui Lingzi, are you saying that my life is worthless? Water Spirit shook her head. Needless to say, even I haven't seen level 50 equipment before. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. I think I'm being very sincere. Since you want compensation, I'll agree to it, but you have to give me a reasonable compensation for me to make it up to you. If you want level 50 equipment as compensation, then I can tell you right now that it's impossible. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi's tone softened a bit. Unless you give me a compensation that everyone can accept, then we Tiangongmen will compensate you. Dao nodded. I'm really sorry, I was lost in my thoughts. Alright, I don't want level 50 equipment, but level 25 equipment is fine. As soon as Dao finished speaking, Shui Lingzi hurriedly waved her hand and said, Impossible, level 25 equipment. I definitely won't agree. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Dao coldly asked, Do you think that my life isn't worth a level 25 equipment? Shui Lingzi shook her head. It's not the same. If Brother Silverblade died, then level 25 equipment would definitely be fine as compensation. But Brother Silverblade was only injured. Level 25 equipment is a bit too much. I think Brother Silverblade should think of a more reasonable compensation. Dao turned his head and looked at Shui Lingzi. After a while, he coldly asked, Since you don't agree, then tell me, what kind of equipment should you give me as compensation? Hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi hesitated for a moment. If she let Dao speak, he would definitely ask for an exorbitant price. Since that was the case, she might as well name her own price. Thinking up to here, Shui Lingzi frowned and stretched out her finger. A level 10 equipment. No. Hearing Shui Lingzi's price, Dao flatly refused. Exchanging level 25 equipment for level 10 equipment, Dao absolutely couldn't accept it. Shui Lingzi, you're too insincere. If you only give me a level 10 equipment, then I won't accept it. Shui Lingzi shook her head. Brother Silverblade, a level 10 equipment is already very difficult to obtain. Even if the Tiangongmen were to forge it, it would take a lot of time and effort. Not to mention, Brother Silverblade's injuries aren't serious. You only suffered a little external injury. I think a level 10 equipment should be enough to make up for Brother Silverblade's injuries. Dao turned his head to look at Shui Lingzi and asked with a sneer, Where did you get the idea that my injuries aren't serious? Don't forget, Fire Spirit's martial arts are very high, and his internal force is many times stronger than mine. Not to mention, he launched a sneak attack and hit me when I wasn't on guard. Not only that, he also hit me twice in a row. I was hit by those 2 punches when I wasn't on guard, and you still say my injuries aren't serious? Speaking up to here, Yin Dao's tone paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, do you think that Fire Spirit's 2 punches would turn me into meat paste for you to feel that it was serious? Shui Lingzi hurriedly waved her hand and said, Brother Silverblade, don't joke around. My brother didn't use his full strength in those 2 punches. He just wanted to scare you. In my opinion, your injuries really aren't serious. If you don't have any other injuries, you should be fine after resting for 2 days. Yin Dao sneered. Shui Lingzi, you said that the Tiangomen's consecrator punched me twice when I wasn't on guard, and then you said I would be fine after resting for 2 days. If this were to spread out, do you think anyone would believe it? Hearing this, Shui Lingzi was stunned. What Yin Dao said was right. If it wasn't for the person involved, they would have thought that the punches were serious. If this were to spread out, it wouldn't be good for the Tiangomen. Thinking up to here, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and said loudly, 1 level 15 equipment. I can't give you more. If you give me more, I won't have the right to agree. Yin Dao immediately shook his head. No, I won't agree to level 15 equipment. At least level 20 equipment. Level 20 equipment? Shui Lingzi fiercely looked at Yin Dao and angrily said, Yin Dao, don't go too far. Chapter 474. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Yin Dao sneered. Water Spirit, do you think that my life isn't even worth a piece of level 20 equipment? Hearing this, Water Spirit shook her head. Of course your life is worth a piece of level 20 equipment, but your injury isn't that big of a deal. It's just a small wound. You want to use a piece of level 20 equipment to exchange for such a small wound. Isn't that a bit too much? Yin Dao shook his head. Water Spirit, you might think that it's not worth it, but I think that a piece of level 20 equipment isn't even worth my life. Saying this, Yin Dao turned to look at Water Spirit and suddenly laughed. Water Spirit, if you think that my injury isn't serious enough, then you can punch me again until my injury is enough to exchange for a piece of level 20 equipment. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Water Spirit froze for a moment, then hurriedly waved her hand. Brother Yin Dao, just now it was purely a misunderstanding. Since I know it was a misunderstanding, how could I hurt you again? Please don't joke around. Yin Dao looked at Water Spirit and sneered. Since you're saying this, does that mean you'll agree to give me a piece of level 20 equipment? Hearing this, Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand. No, I can't agree to give you a piece of level 20 equipment, at most a piece of level 15 equipment. Hearing this, Yin Dao took a step forward and said with a smile, since it's like this, then punch me again and let you feel that it's worth it to take out a piece of level 20 equipment. Seeing Yin Dao step forward, Shui Lingzi subconsciously took a step back and hurriedly said, Brother Yin Dao, why do you have to be like this? I already said that I won't hit you, so why do you have to force me? Yin Dao shook his head. It's not that I'm forcing you, but you think that my injury isn't worth it, so I'll let you punch me again. Water Spirit flatly refused. Impossible, I won't hit you again. Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Yin Dao sneered and stared at Shui Lingzi. After a while, he suddenly let out a roar and turned around, throwing a punch at Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit, who was standing on the side, didn't say anything. He watched everything that was happening in front of him. Yin Dao's actions almost made him explode with anger. If he didn't know that he couldn't attack anymore, he would have already turned Yin Dao into meat paste. Just as Fire Spirit was gritting his teeth in anger, he suddenly felt a shadow flash in front of him. In the next moment, he saw Silver Knife roaring and pouncing towards him. Fire Spirit didn't have time to write. He quickly blocked the Silver Blade's attack with one fist and punched at the Silver Blade with the other. Stop! Fire Spirit Z's martial arts were very high, and he was as fast as lightning. Water Spirit Z saw that something was wrong and quickly called out, but it was already too late. Fire Spirit blocked Silver Blade's attack with one arm, while his other fist smashed on his Silver Blade's body like lightning. Under Fire Spirit Z's powerful attack, Yingdao only had time to let out a pitiful cry before he was sent flying and fell to the ground. Seeing Yingdao fall to the ground and not get up for a while, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed. She knew that things were going to be bad. After a while, Yingdao slowly stood up and walked towards Shui Lingzi. At this moment, Shui Lingzi realized that something was wrong. Fire Spirit had already hit Silver Knife 3 times in a row. Each time, he would fall to the ground. Even so, Silver Knife's subordinates were still standing straight behind him without moving. It was reasonable to say that when their leader was beaten so miserably, their subordinates would rush up and fight with their lives. However, Yingdao's subordinates didn't do that and just stood there without moving. It was as if Yingdao wasn't their leader and had nothing to do with them. They were just like strangers standing there and watching. Seeing this, Shui Lingzi's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly felt like she had been tricked. He guessed that everything Yingdao had done had been predicted by them in advance. Didn't this mean that Yingdao being beaten by Fire Spirit Z was within their expectations? That was why they didn't take revenge for Yingdao, because they knew that he would be fine. Seeing Yingdao getting closer and closer, Shui Lingzi gritted her teeth and asked, "You did this on purpose? This was all part of your plan?" Yingdao shook his head and didn't answer Shui Lingzi's question. He only sneered and said, "Shui Lingzi, are my injuries worth a level 20 equipment?" Hearing this, Shui Lingzi's brows deeply furrowed. She looked at Yingdao and didn't know what to say. Shui Lingzi could tell that if she said that his injuries weren't enough, Yingdao would find a way to make them hit him again until Shui Lingzi said enough. The reason why Yingdao dared to do this was because he was sure that Shui Lingzi and Fire Spirit Z wouldn't dare to be ruthless and would only injure him. Level 20 equipment was very precious. With Silver Knife's martial arts, he would never be able to wear a single piece of level 20 equipment in his lifetime. If he could exchange his injuries for a piece of level 20 equipment, then Silver Knife would definitely not hesitate to do so. Seeing that Shui Lingzi didn't answer, Yingdao sneered and asked again, "Shui Lingzi, my injuries, do you think it was worth it this time?" Hearing Yingdao's question, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed. "Brother Yingdao, why are you doing this? Do you think it was worth it for a level 20 equipment?" Yingdao shook his head. "Worth it? If you can give me a level 20 equipment, then no matter how hard you hit me, I think it was worth it." Water Spirit sighed again. "Brother Silver Saber, you just said that life is more important than anything else. If you don't have your life, then even the best equipment is useless to you. Why are you doing this?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yingdao suddenly sighed. He turned to look at Shui Lingzi and asked, "Shui Lingzi, is my martial arts high?" Shui Lingzi froze for a moment, then slowly said, "Brother Yingdao, your martial arts aren't high right now, but you're still young. As long as you practice hard, you'll definitely become an expert of your generation." Yingdao shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "Shui Lingzi, you don't need to comfort me. I know my own aptitude the best. After training in the Godly Sword sect for so many years, I can guarantee that the effort I put in isn't any less than others. In fact, it's even more than others. But why is my martial arts still stuck at the level of a silver blade? It's because my aptitude isn't high enough. Even if I practice hard, maybe after 30 years, I'll be able to become a golden blade." Speaking up to here, Yingdao sighed. "Jianghu is full of dangers, and I need 30 years to reach the level of a golden blade. Moreover, even if I reach the level of a golden blade, I'll only be in the upper middle class. I can't even be considered a first-class expert." Hearing Yingdao's words, Shui Lingzi could only sigh in her heart. Chapter 475. In terms of martial arts, Water Spirit was very clear that you couldn't reach the level of an expert just by practicing hard. talent, and aptitude. This would determine your future achievements. If your talent wasn't good enough, then even if you practiced hard, although you could make some progress, it would be very little. Those who could become peerless experts were all heavenly geniuses. Even if they didn't practice hard, they would still become peerless experts because their talent was enough. Although Water Spirit said that Dao was still young, but that was really just to comfort him. Although Water Spirit didn't know how old Dao was, but from his appearance, he should be around 30 years old. To become a silver blade expert at 30 years old, his aptitude really wasn't that good. Moreover, Dao just said that even if he practiced hard, he would only be able to reach the level of a golden blade in 30 years. This was the truth. This was the sorrow of having no talent. Looking at Dao's lonely face, Water Spirit suddenly felt some sympathy. She knew that it wasn't easy for Dao to say these words. Dao also saw the sympathy in Water Spirit's eyes, and his heart became even more sad. For a martial artist to have other people sympathize with him on the road of martial arts, this was the biggest sorrow. Dao suddenly straightened his back, and the trace of loneliness on his face immediately disappeared. Water Spirit, I don't need your sympathy. I just want to use my ability in exchange for my safety in the future. At this point, Silver Knife paused for a moment before continuing. If I can use my ability to exchange for a piece of level 20 equipment, I believe that this piece of level 20 equipment will be of great help to me in the future. Hearing Dao's words, Water Spirit silently nodded in her heart. Jianghu was very dangerous. If Dao had a level 20 equipment, then he would at least have some protection. Water Spirit sympathized with Dao. She even wanted to blurt out that she would give him a level 20 equipment to express her sympathy. But would it really be that easy? Would it be that easy to create a level 20 equipment? With the massive Heaven's Craftsman Gate and the materials and manpower accumulated over the years, it wasn't easy to forge a piece of level 20 equipment. One could imagine how precious a piece of level 20 equipment was. It was precisely because of this reason that when Wu Lai had asked Water Spirit for a piece of level 24 equipment, Water Spirit had flatly rejected him. Instead, she had offered him 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Wu Lai hadn't been angry at all. Even an expert like Wu Lai was very satisfied with level 20 equipment, so one could imagine how rare level 20 equipment was. Wu Lai also knew that no matter what method he used, the Tiangongmen wouldn't give him level 24 equipment. Level 24 equipment was simply too precious. Even if you had enough money, you still wouldn't be able to buy it. Once Silver Saber obtained such a rare piece of equipment, it would be of great help to him. But Water Spirit wouldn't agree to exchange with Dao, of course, of the Tiangongmen of Jianghu. Not only that, today, the Tiangongmen's losses. The Wu clan had already agreed to give them 2 level 20 equipment and told them not to interfere with this matter. As for Shadowless and Du Wu Dai, Water Spirit also agreed to give them 2 level 20 equipment. She only hoped that they could safely bring back the people from Kikyaman. When it came to the Godly Blade faction, Water Spirit was forced to agree and give them 2 pieces of level 20 equipment as a way to keep the peace. With the 3 clans added together, the Tiangongmen had to pay a total of 6 level 20 equipment. So many level 20 equipment was already making things difficult for Water Spirit. Even if he was a consecrated of the Tiangongmen, how was he supposed to explain this amount of equipment when he returned? Now, Dao also wanted a level 20 equipment, which made things even more difficult for Water Spirit. Although Dao's reason was very strong, but in Water Spirit's eyes, it wasn't enough. This was because the Tiangongmen couldn't afford so many level 20 equipment. Although Water Spirit sympathized with Dao, he couldn't agree. If Dao wanted a level 15 equipment, then Water Spirit could give him one from his collection. But if he wanted to give him a level 20 equipment, then there was no way he could give it to him. Water Spirit has a piece of level 20 equipment, but that piece of level 20 equipment is Water Spirit's most prized possession. It was also a piece of level 20 equipment that he had created himself. This level 20 equipment was simply too rare for Water Spirit. Basically, he would look at it once every 3 days. Therefore, Water Spirit would not give the level 20 equipment that she regarded as a treasure to Silverknife. Dao was very pitiful, but he really didn't have any relationship with him. If Dao was his disciple or his family, then he might consider giving him the level 20 equipment. But Silverknife was nothing. He wasn't his disciple, nor was he his family. Why would Water Spirit give him such a precious piece of level 20 equipment? Thinking about this, Water Spirit took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. At the same time, he also spat out a trace of sympathy in his mind. Brother Dao, I understand your difficulties. You shouldn't do this. You also know how precious level 20 equipment is. I can't give it to you. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit suddenly sighed and continued. If you are willing, I could take out a level 15 equipment from my collection and give it to you. Brother Silverblade, what do you think? Actually, with Dao's level 15 equipment was very rare for him. Of course, he was just looking at it. As for owning it, he had never even thought about it. This was because level 15 equipment was quite extravagant for someone of his level. After listening to Water Spirit's words, Dao's brows suddenly wrinkled. From Water Spirit's words, he understood that the reason why she gave him the level 15 equipment was out of sympathy. More importantly, Dao could hear from these words that there was a deeper meaning behind Water Spirit's words. In other words, Silverblade was only worthy of this level 15 equipment. And this was only because Water Spirit sympathized with him that she gave him this level 15 equipment. If it wasn't for her sympathy, then Silverblade probably wouldn't even have been able to get this level 15 equipment. Hearing the meaning behind her words, Dao's eyes suddenly became cold. He stared at Water Spirit and lightly said, Water Spirit, could it be that you think I'm not worthy of that level 20 equipment? Water Spirit didn't think that Dao would think so much. She quickly shook her head and said, Brother Dao, you think too much. How could you not be worthy of that level 20 equipment? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao coldly laughed and said, Water Spirit, then tell me, what do you mean by your words? Chapter 476. Water Spirit originally had good intentions, but she didn't think that Silverknife would misunderstand. Looking at the angry face of Silverknife, Water Spirit hurriedly laughed and said, Brother Silverknife, you misunderstood. The reason why I gave you a level 15 equipment is because level 20 equipment is too rare. Even with our Tyngalman strength, it's not easy to forge one. So, I hope Brother Silverknife can understand and accept my level 15 equipment. Silverknife shook his head and suddenly sneered. Water Spirit, the reason why you gave me a level 15 equipment, is it because you think I'm pitiful? Hearing Silverknife's words, Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand. Brother Silverknife, I definitely didn't mean that. Silverknife looked at Water Spirit and sneered. Then what do you mean? I clearly wanted level 20 equipment. Why did you give me a level 15 equipment? Water Spirit shook her head. Brother Silverknife, please don't misunderstand. The reason why I gave you a level 15 equipment is because the Tyngalman really can't take out too many level 20 equipment. Speaking up to this point, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Brother Silverblade, as you can see, the Wu clan and Shadowless clan each gave 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. In addition to your Godly Blade Gate, the Heaven's Craftsman Gate will have to give you 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. No matter how powerful the Heaven's Craftsman faction is, it won't be easy to gather so many level 20 equipment. That's why I hope Brother Silver Saber can understand and change your level 20 equipment to level 15 equipment. Hearing Water Spirit's explanation, Silverknife's cold eyes softened a little. He also saw what happened a moment ago, so he naturally understood that what Water Spirit said was true. It was indeed difficult for the Tyngalman to take out so many level 20 equipment at once. Silverknife understood all of this. Thinking up to here, Silverknife was a little moved. If he could get a level 15 equipment, it would be a priceless treasure. Although he would suffer a little injury, it was definitely worth it. Silverknife looked around. Although he was a little tempted, his heart was more reluctant and unwilling to give up. What a good opportunity this was. Silverknife was sure that no matter what he did now, Water Spirit wouldn't dare to fall out with him because he had the Godly Knife sect behind him. If Water Spirit dared to fall out with him, then it would be a war between the Godly Knife sect and the Taiangolmen. Although the Taiangolmen were invincible in the South region, in terms of martial arts, there was still a gap between them and the Godly Knife sect. The Heaven's Craftsman faction relied on smithing equipment for a living, while the Godly Knife faction relied on martial arts for a living. The professions of the two factions were not on the same level. If the Godly Knife sect and Taiangolmen fight, the Taiangolmen would be the Taiangolmen. In this kind of situation, where Water Spirit didn't dare to turn hostile, taking the opportunity to ask for the equipment wasn't the best opportunity. Silver Knife sect, Silver Knife, ses opportunities sts a chance. If knife s knife satit have say it. He could have obtained level 20 equipment, but he could only obtain level 15 equipment. Silver Knife was extremely unwilling. Thinking about how much of an advantage he would have if he could equip level 20 equipment in the future, Silverblade felt a surge of heat in his heart. It was so hot that his eyes were shining. Thinking of this, Yingdao suddenly clenched his teeth and loudly said, "Water Spirit, if you think my injuries are not enough, then punch me again." Hearing Yingdao's words, Shui Lingzi's expression suddenly changed, and she hurriedly said, "Brother Yingdao, why don't you understand the difficulties of Taiangolmen?" Yingdao sneered. "I understand the difficulties of the Taiangolmen, but who will understand my difficulties?" Speaking up to here, Yingdao paused, then turned to Shui Lingzi and said in a low voice, "Shui Lingzi, you are high and mighty. How could you understand the difficulties of someone like me who is ranked first in martial arts? In your eyes, a piece of level 20 equipment is just a piece of high-level equipment. But you should know that in my eyes, a piece of level 20 equipment is more important than my life." Hearing Silver Knife's words, Water Spirit subconsciously took a step back, creating some distance between her and Silver Knife. She could see that Silver Knife's state was a bit crazy. For that level 20 equipment, this Silver Knife in front of her was willing to do anything. Looking at the retreating Shui Lingzi, Yingdao suddenly sneered and said, "Shui Lingzi, am I very pitiful?" Shui Lingzi hurriedly shook her head. "How could that be? As long as you practice martial arts, you will definitely become an expert in the future. How could you be pitiful?" "Expert," Yingdao muttered to himself. After a while, he suddenly snorted, "Shui Lingzi, do you know why the Godly Knife sect sent me this time?" Hearing Yingdao's question, Shui Lingzi hurriedly smiled and said, "Of course it's because Brother Yingdao handles things well, so your sect master can rest assured. That's why he sent you." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yingdao suddenly shook his head. "You know, you just don't want to say it. Since you don't want to say it, then I will. I understand this time I was sent not because I handle things well, but because my martial arts are low and I am obedient." Speaking up to here, Yingdao's tone paused, then continued with a sneer. "Even if this kind of person is sacrificed, it's not a pity. That's why they sent me, an obedient person with no future in martial arts, to come." Hearing Yingdao's words, Shui Lingzi pondered for a moment, then understood that he was right. The Godly Knife sect sent some people with low martial arts to cause trouble. It could even be said that they were deliberately sacrificing them to provoke a battle with the Taiangolmen. Since they had this goal, it was impossible for them to send disciples with a future. They would definitely send some insignificant people, because even if they lost them, it wouldn't affect the Godly Knife sect. Understanding this point, Shui Lingzi could only sigh in her heart. At the same time, she suddenly thought of herself. This time, she came here with the Taiangolmen. Was it also for the same reason? Was it to be like Yingdao, a disciple that could be sacrificed at will? When this thought appeared in her heart, Shui Lingzi's thoughts couldn't be stopped. Although this time she took the initiative to come, but thinking about it carefully, it seemed that there was an inexplicable force that led her thoughts or led her thoughts forward step by step until she volunteered to fight. Thinking about everything that happened when everyone was discussing the details of this matter, cold sweat appeared on Shui Lingzi's forehead, and her heart gradually became cold. Could it be that what she guessed was true? Although her martial arts were higher than Yin Dao's, their goal was the same. Chapter 477. Water Spirit's forehead was covered in cold sweat. She suddenly realized that this feeling was very uncomfortable. If what I guessed was true, then wouldn't I also be one of their pawns? Thinking about how she took the initiative to come here, Water Spirit's heart was filled with regret. She regretted that she came here. Yin Dao naturally didn't know what Water Spirit was thinking. His heart was completely occupied by that level 20 equipment. Wu Lai saw the level 20 equipment. Although he also wanted to have it, his heart was not as strong as Yin Dao's. If he didn't have this opportunity, Yin Dao wouldn't even dare to think about level 20 equipment. For someone of his level, wanting to get a level 20 equipment was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Now that the opportunity came, Yin Dao would never let it go. This was his only chance to get a level 20 equipment in his life. Yin Dao even thought that even if he was crippled by Fire Spirit, he would accept it. As long as he could get that level 20 equipment, he would accept it even if he was crippled. Seeing that Water Spirit didn't speak, Yin Dao was a little anxious. He wanted to speak, but because of his excitement, his voice was a little hoarse. Yin Dao coughed and swallowed a mouthful of saliva to moisten his throat. Then he softly said, "Water Spirit, what do you want from my equipment? Will you give it to me or not?" Hearing Yin Dao's words, Water Spirit was suddenly awakened. She raised her head and wanted to speak, but found that she didn't know what to say. After a while, Water Spirit let out a sigh. "Silverblade, I can't make the decision on this matter because the amount of level 20 equipment I've promised is too much. I'm afraid that even if I agree to your request, I won't be able to fulfill it. Rather than that, I think it will be better for you to change to something that I can fulfill. Wouldn't that be better?" Seeing that the level 20 equipment was about to pass him by, Yin Dao naturally wouldn't give up so easily. He gritted his teeth and sneered. "Water Spirit, is it because my injuries aren't heavy enough that you won't agree?" Water Spirit shook her head. She looked at Yin Dao and bitterly smiled. "It's not that I don't want to agree, but I really can't." Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Yin Dao coldly asked, "Why? Tell me why not?" Water Spirit looked at Silverblade for a while before sighing. "Brother Silverblade, do you really think you're suited for level 20 equipment?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Yin Dao's face suddenly changed, and he snapped, "Shui Lingzi, are you looking down on me?" Water Spirit bitterly smiled and shook her head. "Brother Silverblade, I'm not looking down on you. I just want to ask you, do you really want to obtain a piece of level 20 equipment?" Hearing this, Yin Dao's eyes lit up and he nodded with a sneer. "Water Spirit, don't you want it?" At this point, Yin Dao paused for a moment before suddenly laughing. "My martial arts are not good enough. Even if I want to advance to Golden Dao level, I'm afraid it will take me at least 20 years. Therefore, if I want to increase my own strength, I can't think of any other way besides using equipment. In addition, if I have this level 20 equipment, I think that people of the same level as me won't even be able to break through my defense. So how can they fight me? Moreover, Water Spirit, don't you think that having a level 20 equipment is something to be proud of? If I have a level 20 equipment, whether it's my senior brother, junior brother, or even my martial uncles, they will all have a whole new level of respect for me. Water Spirit, don't you think this is important?" After listening to Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi was silent for a moment before slowly raising her head to look at Yin Dao and bitterly asked, "Do you really think so?" Yin Dao nodded, "Of course. If I don't think so, why would I do it?" Speaking of this, Yin Dao suddenly turned to Shui Lingzi and asked with a frown, "Could it be that you think I'm wrong?" Shui Lingzi sighed. "Brother Yin Dao, you're really wrong. Although level 20 equipment has amazing defense, it really isn't as important as you think. At this point, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before looking at Yin Dao and hesitating for a moment before continuing. Brother Yin Dao, do you really think that with your martial arts, you're really suited to equip a level 20 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Yin Dao suddenly became angry. He took a step forward and sternly shouted, Shui Lingzi, in the end, you're still looking down on me. Do you think that with my martial arts, I can't equip a level 20 equipment? Seeing that Yin Dao was angry, Shui Lingzi didn't care. She slowly sighed and softly said, Brother Yin Dao, do you know how precious a level 20 equipment is? Yin Dao nodded. Of course I know. Shui Lingzi continued to ask, Brother Yin Dao, do you know how many people want a level 20 equipment? Yin Dao nodded again. I know, there are a lot of people who want a level 20 equipment. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Shui Lingzi sighed. Brother Yin Dao, if you know that so many people want a level 20 equipment, why do you insist on a level 20 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao sneered. If so many people want a level 20 equipment, why can't I? Shui Lingzi took a deep breath. Since so many people want a level 20 equipment, do you still not understand? You're not suited to equip a level 20 equipment. You're talking nonsense. As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Dao's expression changed greatly, and his brows furrowed deeply. Seeing Yin Dao's appearance, Shui Lingzi sighed. She stepped forward and patted Yin Dao's shoulder and softly said, Now do you understand why I said you're not suited to equip a level 20 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao didn't answer and instead lowered his head to think. Not only was Yin Dao lowering his head to think, but he was also sweating nonstop. Cold sweat came out so fast that it quickly flowed down Yin Dao's forehead. Yin Dao's face was a bit pale, and even his hands were slightly trembling. After a while, Yin Dao slowly raised his head and stared at Shui Lingzi. He gritted his teeth and asked, Am I really not suited to equip a level 20 equipment? Shui Lingzi sighed and patted Yin Dao's shoulder again. Brother Yin Dao, this is the truth. You should take it easy. No. As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, Yin Dao suddenly let out a low roar. After roaring, Yin Dao took a few deep breaths before shouting in a hoarse voice. Chapter 478. Silver Knife said in a hoarse voice, I don't accept. Why can't I get level 20 equipment? Water Spirit sighed. Brother Silverblade, I'll be honest with you. Level 15 equipment isn't suitable for you. If you listen to me, I'll give you a level 10 equipment. That won't be a problem at all. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Silver Knife froze for a moment. He turned his head and stared at Water Spirit, thinking that his level 20 equipment had turned into level 10 equipment in the blink of an eye. How would he accept this? This was like putting a piece of gold and a piece of silver in front of Silver Knife and letting him choose. Perhaps this comparison wasn't right, because level 20 equipment and level 10 equipment were simply worlds apart. It should be the difference between a piece of gold and a piece of scrap iron. Thinking that the gold in his hand would turn into scrap iron, Silver Knife suddenly shouted, No, I don't want level 10 equipment. I want level 20 equipment. Hearing Silver Knife's somewhat crazy words, Water Spirit was somewhat helpless. Her purpose in talking to Silver Knife for so long was indeed to exchange level 10 equipment for level 20 equipment. Although Water Spirit's purpose wasn't pure, but what she said was absolutely correct. With Silver Knife's martial arts, if he really wore level 20 equipment, he would be able to block the attacks of others at the same level, and others wouldn't be able to break through his defense. However, those who wanted level 20 equipment weren't limited to people at the same level as Silver Knife. Many people wanted level 20 equipment, but they couldn't get it. Although they couldn't get it, they still wanted to get it. Just like Silver Knife's martial uncle and the others, with their level, wanting to get level 20 equipment was definitely a difficult matter. If Silver Knife had level 20 equipment, with so many strong enemies surrounding him, it was only a matter of time before he lost it. Since so many people wanted level 20 equipment, why were only a few people able to get it? Was it because they couldn't afford level 20 equipment? After Silver Knife got this equipment, even if he didn't want to wear it, it would be impossible for him to sell it. No one would be able to afford this level 20 equipment. At the very least, those who were at the same level as him, or those who were one level higher than him, would never be able to afford this level 20 equipment. Since they couldn't afford level 20 equipment, there was only one way, and everyone knew what it was. With Silver Blade's martial arts, it was impossible for him to protect this level 20 equipment under the siege of so many powerful enemies. Even though Silver Knife had obtained this level 20 equipment, he had also obtained a calamity that could cause him to disappear from this world. Without the corresponding martial arts and strength, if he wanted to wear level 20 equipment, not only would it not bring true safety, but it would also bring true disaster. Silver Knife's martial arts weren't high. He didn't have any treasures. But if he really had level 20 equipment, then he would be in danger. Water Spirit understood this, and so did Dao. Level 20 equipment was something he had always dreamed of. Perhaps in his dreams, he would be able to see what level 20 equipment looked like. Perhaps in his dreams, he would be able to wear level 20 equipment and show off. But in reality, this was absolutely impossible. Water Spirit sighed. Brother Silver Knife, don't you understand? Even if you get level 20 equipment, you won't be able to keep it. Silver Knife raised his red eyes and looked at Water Spirit in front of him, then suddenly said in a hoarse voice, Water Spirit, I want to try. I really want to have level 20 equipment. Water Spirit sighed and shook her head. It's useless. In fact, you also understand, and I also understand in your heart, but you also have to understand that some things can't be tried. If you fail, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Silver Knife sadly lowered his head. He naturally understood Water Spirit's words, but with such a good opportunity in front of him, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Thinking of this, Silver Knife once again raised his head, gritted his teeth, and said, Water Spirit, I want to try, otherwise I won't be willing for the rest of my life. After hearing Silver Knife's words, Water Spirit once again sighed, Brother Silver Knife, you just said that the most precious thing in this world is life. If you lose your life, then you have nothing. Do you think that your life is only worth a level 20 equipment? Shui Lingzi's words were like a bolt from the blue, striking Dao's mind, causing his somewhat chaotic thoughts to clear up a little. Yes, no matter how good level 20 equipment is, you still need to be alive to use it. If you lose your life, then you really have nothing left. The most important thing was that Silver Knife didn't think that his life was only worth a level 20 equipment. How could a cold equipment compare to his life? Thinking of this, Silver Knife's fiery mood gradually calmed down. As long as he was alive, the future would be better. Although level 20 equipment was good, as long as he worked hard, he still had a chance to obtain it in the future. Silver Knife closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then slowly exhaled, calming his somewhat regretful and uncomfortable mood. Just as Dao was about to exhale, he suddenly felt something. If he wanted to improve his martial arts, in addition to his own hard work, he also needed a teacher. Although his teacher was good and was willing to teach him seriously, if he had a better teacher, then wouldn't his progress be faster? The original plan was to take 20 years to reach the level of a golden knife, but if he had a good teacher, then maybe it would only take 10 years to reach the level of a golden knife. He was only 31 years old this year, so if he reached the level of a golden knife in 10 years, then he would only be 41 years old. To reach the level of a golden knife at 41 years old, although it wasn't much in the eyes of some geniuses, but in Silver Knife's eyes, it was already a very amazing thing. However, if he wanted a better teacher to teach him, what should he rely on? His not so good aptitude, or his not so good martial arts? Thinking of this, Silver Knife's eyes gradually lit up. If he got this level 20 equipment, even if he didn't equip it, if he gave it to a future teacher, then that teacher would look at this equipment and carefully teach him so that he could reach the level of a golden knife as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Silver Knife already had an idea. He looked up at Shui Lingzi, cupped his fist, and said with a smile, "Thank you for your guidance, Senior Shui Lingzi. I now understand." After hearing Silver Knife's words, Shui Lingzi was immediately overjoyed. Since Silver Knife understood and expressed his gratitude to her, then didn't that mean that Silver Knife didn't want the level 20 equipment? Chapter 479. Water Spirit cupped her hands towards Silverblade. "Congratulations, Brother Silverblade. You finally understood. Then, as compensation for your injuries, I'll give you a high-quality level 10 equipment. What do you think, Brother Silverblade?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Silverblade smiled and shook his head. "Water Spirit, I don't want level 10 equipment. I want level 20 equipment." Eh. Water Spirit was stunned. She stared at the silver saber in a daze, not knowing what to say for a moment. Since he already understood that level 20 equipment was not suitable for him, why would he still want level 20 equipment? After a while, Water Spirit tentatively asked, "Brother Silverblade, do you still not understand? Level 20 equipment isn't good for you." Silverblade nodded. "I understand. I won't wear level 20 equipment because I have a greater use for it." Hearing Indao's words, Shui Lingzi secretly sighed. Naturally, level 20 equipment would not only bring disaster to others, but it would also bring countless benefits. The reason why she said such a terrifying thing to Silverblade was to make him back off and use level 10 equipment to deal with him. Thinking of this, Water Spirit softly asked, "Don't you want to think about it?" Silverblade shook his head. "No. This level 20 equipment is very important to me. It can even be said that it relates to my future, so I must get it." At this moment, Water Spirit completely understood. Her painstaking efforts to persuade him were all in vain. Silverblade was determined to get level 20 equipment. This was a fact, and there was no way to change it. But was she really going to give Silverblade a level 20 equipment? If she really wanted to give Silverblade a level 20 equipment, Water Spirit was really reluctant. The Wu Clan situation was different from other people. The Wu Clan's martial arts were too high, and Water Spirit and Fire Spirit were no match for them. They had no choice but to agree to give them 2 level 20 equipment in exchange for the Wu Clan's promise. Even for Shadowless, although the strength behind him was strong, Water Spirit still didn't want to give him any equipment. She only wanted to use her martial arts to beat Shadowless in a submission and save 2 level 20 equipment. But she never thought that Shadowless Master, Du Wudai, would appear again. Du Wudai's martial arts wasn't something that Water Spirit and Fire Spirit could match up to. In this situation, Water Spirit could only agree to Shadowless's request and gave him 2 level 20 equipment. The Godly Sword faction's Silverblade was a pain in the ass. For the sake of the Godly Sword faction, she really couldn't do anything to them. So, she could only give them 2 level 20 equipment. This was a helpless situation. Otherwise, if these factions caused trouble, Water Spirit wouldn't be able to take Kikiaman's people away. But the matter with Silverblade's matter, Water Spirit wasn't willing to give up. No matter how pitiful Silver Knife sounded, no matter how helpless he sounded, with his martial arts, Water Spirit definitely didn't want to give him level 20 equipment as compensation. However, Indao was a member of the Godly Blade sect. If he offended the Godly Blade sect, it would definitely be a fatal blow to the Heaven's Craftsman sect. What should she do? Giving Silver Blade a level 20 equipment was something that Water Spirit really didn't want to do. Level 20 equipment was not as common as cabbages. They were rather precious items. If someone like Silverblade had a level 20 equipment, then once the news spread out, Water Spirit could guarantee that Silverblade wouldn't be able to live for more than a day before his equipment would be taken away. Looking at Water Spirit, who was lost in thought, Indao smiled and said, "Senior Water Spirit, don't worry. I won't use this equipment for myself. I can tell you the truth. I'll give this equipment to someone else." At this moment, how could Water Spirit be in the mood to care about who Silverblade would give the equipment to? She was only thinking about how to get rid of this matter. The best solution right now was to give Silverblade a level 10 equipment to get rid of this matter. Moreover, Water Spirit had already made up her mind. Even if she were to give Silver Knife a piece of level 10 equipment, she would pay for it herself. She didn't want this matter to spread to the Heaven's Craftsman Gate and become a joke to others. Even if she could bring the people from Kikiaman back, she would have to pay the price of 6 level 20 equipment. With this price, there would be a lot of people looking for trouble in the Tyngoman. Therefore, she couldn't pay more. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi slowly raised her head, looked at the smiling Silverblade, and said seriously, "Brother Silverblade, since you understand, I will tell you the truth. As compensation, no matter what equipment I give you, it will be my personal gift to you. It has nothing to do with the Tyngoman. Therefore, please be lenient and lower the price a bit." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. "If Brother Silverblade isn't satisfied with level 10 equipment, then we can discuss it again. As for level 15 equipment, I believe Brother Silverblade should be satisfied. Even if you want to give it away, level 15 equipment is enough to give Brother Silverblade face. Therefore, I ask Brother Silverblade not to make things difficult for this old man." Originally, Silverblade's face was full of smiles, but after hearing Water Spirit's words, the smile on his face gradually disappeared. In the end, it turned into frost. "Water Spirit, are you messing with me?" Water Spirit shook her head and said with a bitter smile, "At this time, I don't have the heart to mess with you. As long as you don't mess with me, I'll be very happy." Silverblade sneered, "Since you're not messing with me, then why did level 20 equipment become level 15 equipment?" Hearing this, Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand. "Brother Silverblade, did you not hear what I said just now? As compensation, no matter what equipment I give you, it will be a gift from me, Water Spirit. It has nothing to do with the Heaven's Craftsman faction. Therefore, I'm here to ask Brother Silver Saber to make an exception and discuss a solution." Silverblade shook his head. "I don't care. It doesn't matter who gave me the equipment. Whether it's you or the Tyngoman, it's all the same to me. There's no difference. Right now, I only want my level 20 equipment. Other than that, I won't think about anything else." Seeing that Silverblade's will was firm and refused to back down, Water Spirit was annoyed, but there was nothing she could do, because she was very clear that at this time, she couldn't offend the Godly Blade sect. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit wiped the cold sweat from her forehead and said, "I only have one level 20 equipment in my collection. But that equipment, I already promised my disciple that as long as he completes my test, I will give it to him. Therefore, my only level 20 equipment is actually an item with an owner. I really can't give it to you." Silverblade shook his head. "I don't care about this. I only want my level 20 equipment." Chapter 480. Yin Dao said, "I only want my level 20 equipment. As for who took it, it has nothing to do with me." Water Spirit sighed. "No matter what, with Brother Yin Dao's injuries, the Tyngoman definitely won't agree to exchange it for level 20 equipment. Even if it's a level 15 equipment, I'll give it to you personally because of Brother Yin Dao." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Yin Dao's expression suddenly changed. He suddenly sneered. "Water Spirit, are you saying that my injuries aren't serious enough?" Water Spirit shook her head and bitterly smiled. "Brother Yin Dao, things aren't as simple as you think. Although us brothers are Tyngoman, the Tyngoman aren't owned by our family. We can't do whatever we want. Just like how Fire Spirit injured you, the Tyngoman won't care. Even if we compensate Brother Yin Dao, it'll be as compensating you, not the Tyngoman. I hope Brother Yin Dao can understand this." Yin Dao suddenly took a deep breath and turned to look at Fire Spirit. After staring blankly for a moment, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. He turned back to Water Spirit and said with a smile, "Water Spirit, as the two of you are consecrators of the Heaven's Craftsman Gate, both of you should have level 20 equipment. Since your level 20 equipment is reserved for your disciple, I won't force you. I think Fire Spirit should also have a level 20 equipment. He probably didn't give it away, so why don't you give it to me as my compensation?" Yin Dao didn't lower his voice. Fire Spirit wasn't standing too far away, so he naturally heard what he said. Fire Spirit was immediately enraged. Although he and Water Spirit both had level 20 equipment, they both treated this level 20 equipment as a treasure. Their level 20 equipment didn't just fall from the sky. They were rewarded for their outstanding contributions to the Heaven's Craftsman faction. In order to get level 20 equipment, they had to pay a lot. Therefore, Water Spirit and Fire Spirit treated this equipment as a treasure and wouldn't easily give it away. The reason why Water Spirit agreed to give his level 20 equipment to his disciple was because his disciple's talent was too high, and his results were also very good. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and prepared to give this level 20 equipment to his disciple. Otherwise, even if he had to die with his disciple, he wouldn't have given it to someone else. Indao brat, you've gone too far. I only gave you 2 punches, and I didn't even use much strength. What are you trying to do? Indao turned around and looked at Fire Spirit as he sneered and said, Fire Spirit, come. My injuries aren't that serious yet. Come and punch me again. Hearing Indao's words, even the powerful Fire Spirit couldn't help but take a step back. He didn't want to be dragged down by this brat. Indao didn't care about Fire Spirit's reaction. He turned to Water Spirit and said with a smile, Water Spirit, since we've made things clear, then I'll say it directly. I want a level 20 equipment as compensation. No matter what the reason is, I want it. I hope Senior Water Spirit can understand and help me with this big favor. This junior will never forget and will find a way to repay Senior in the future. Hearing Indao's words, Water Spirit froze for a moment. Looking at Indao, who was cupping his fist, she didn't know what to say. At this moment, if Indao's request was something else, then Water Spirit would definitely agree. But level 20 equipment, Water Spirit really couldn't agree to his request. Unless Water Spirit was willing to give Silver Knife her level 20 equipment, otherwise, it was impossible. Although Fire Spirit also had a level 20 equipment, Water Spirit knew that even if she killed Fire Spirit, he wouldn't give his level 20 equipment to Indao. Thinking of this, Water Spirit sighed and said softly, Brother Indao, I know your intentions and know what you want to do, but it's impossible. You know how precious level 20 equipment is. Even with my status, after so many years, I've only gotten 1 level 20 equipment. Saying this, Water Spirit turned to look at Indao and slowly said, Brother Indao, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but with your martial arts, it's very difficult to get level 20 equipment. Even if you do get a level 20 equipment, it won't be a blessing, but a disaster. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Indao sighed, I naturally know that I don't deserve level 20 equipment, so I don't need level 20 equipment. I just want to use this level 20 equipment in exchange for my future. Hearing this, Water Spirit's heart suddenly moved. He suddenly smiled and said, Brother Indao, I think, if you want someone to teach you, you can tell me. I'll talk to them for you. I believe that they will listen to this old man's words and teach you martial arts. Saying this, Water Spirit's face was full of joy. The Tyangalman was a big sect in the South region that made equipment, so they naturally had a lot of connections with other big sects in the South region. Water Spirit knew a lot of people from the Godly Sword sect, so he was very confident that he could talk to a good master for Indao to teach him martial arts. If this matter was successful, then wouldn't he have saved a piece of level 20 equipment, and Silver Dagger would have achieved his goal? Wouldn't this be killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Thinking of this, Water Spirit's heart relaxed. In the Godly Sword sect, he really did have a few good friends. These good friends of his were also people with high martial arts, so he believed that they would be able to satisfy Indao's needs. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Indao froze for a moment, then shook his head. No, I'm afraid you can't do it. Hearing Indao's answer, Water Spirit was stunned for a moment. Then he stroked his beard and laughed. Brother Indao, you still don't understand this old man. Saying this, Water Spirit's tone paused for a moment. Then he continued, after so many years, the Godly Sword sect and the Tyangalman have a lot of contacts. During this time, this old man also met a lot of experts from the Godly Sword sect and had a good relationship with them. It's not that this old man wants to boast, but if this old man says something, some people will listen. Water Spirit turned his head to look at Dao and said with a smile, Brother Dao, please rest assured. As long as you tell me who you want to join, I will definitely do it for you as compensation. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao's eyes suddenly lit up, and he suddenly said, I want to join the Godly Sword sect. I wonder if Senior Water Spirit has a way? Hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi was shocked. Could it be that you want to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch? Dao nodded. Senior Water Spirit, you are right. Chapter 481. Dao slowly said, Senior Shui Lingzi, this junior wants to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch. Dao paused for a moment before continuing. This junior has thought about it for a long time. Only by becoming a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch can I have a better future. Shui Lingzi looked at Dao in a daze. She never thought that Dao would want to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch. If it was someone else, Shui Lingzi would have a way to help him achieve his goal of becoming a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect. But for the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch, Shui Lingzi really had no way. Becoming a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch was not a simple matter. This was because the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch had a very high chance of becoming the next patriarch. It was also because of this reason that the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch was very careful when choosing disciples. Other than innate talent and intelligence, one also needed to have a good character. If one only had high innate talent, then it would be useless. In addition, one also needed to have a good family background. In short, there were countless disciples who wanted to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect, but the number of people who were accepted was very small. Because the conditions were too harsh, naturally the number of people who were accepted was also very small. Dao's innate talent was not high, his character was not high, and his family background was not strong. For such a person to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch, it could be said that it was impossible. It could even be said that one should not even think about it, because it was simply unrealistic. However, this Dao in front of her actually said such an unrealistic thing. After a while, Shui Lingzi suddenly said, Brother Dao, do you think this is possible? Will the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch accept you as a disciple? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Dao shook his head in dismay. Impossible. I don't have enough qualifications. The Godly Knife Sect's patriarch will not accept me as a disciple. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi's worried heart finally relaxed. As long as Dao could recognize his own shortcomings, then he would definitely let go of this unrealistic idea. Who knew that Dao's tone only paused for a moment before he continued. With my current qualifications, I naturally can't. But if I have a piece of level 20 equipment and give it to the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch as a gift, I believe that he will accept my request. Hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi could only secretly sigh in her heart. If things were that simple, then everyone could give a piece of level 20 equipment to the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect. Wouldn't that mean that everyone could become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect? It seems that this Dao's patriarch was too naive thinking of such a simple logic. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi stepped forward and patted Dao's shoulder. She bitterly smiled and said, Brother Dao, do you really think that the Godly Knife Sect's sect leader will accept you as a disciple just because you have level 20 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Dao heavily nodded and said with a smile, Level 20 equipment is so precious. I believe that as long as I have level 20 equipment, the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch will definitely accept me as a disciple. Shui Lingzi sighed. She couldn't bear to strike Dao's confidence, but if she didn't strike him down, then she wouldn't be able to convince him of his arrogance. Shui Lingzi was sure that even if Dao had a piece of level 20 equipment, the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch would definitely not accept him as a disciple. What kind of status did the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch have? What kind of things had he not seen before? The level 20 equipment in Yin Dao's eyes was incomparably precious, but in the eyes of the godly knife sex patriarch, it could even be said that it was an ordinary item. With different statuses, one's experience would naturally be different. In Yin Dao's mind, a level 20 equipment was already super good. He was even willing to receive heavy injuries in exchange for that equipment. However, in the eyes of the godly knife sex patriarch, a level 20 equipment couldn't even be exchanged for a needle-sized wound on his hand. This was the gap, a helpless gap. Yin Dao saw that Shui Lingzi didn't reply for a long time, so he hurriedly asked, "Senior Shui Lingzi, do you want to give me my level 20 equipment or not?" Looking at the anxious Yin Dao, Shui Lingzi decided to tell him the truth to prevent him from thinking too much and doing something unrealistic. "Brother Yin Dao, it's useless, it's really useless. Even if you have level 20 equipment, the godly knife sect patriarch still won't accept you as a disciple. You're talking nonsense." As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, Yin Dao exclaimed, "Shui Lingzi, you're talking nonsense. Level 20 equipment is so precious. Why wouldn't the godly knife sex patriarch accept me as a disciple? Don't tell me he doesn't want such precious equipment." Hearing Yin Dao's question, Shui Lingzi didn't reply. Instead, she slowly closed her eyes and pondered for a moment. Then, she opened her eyes again and turned to look at Yin Dao. She sighed and said, "I remember that last autumn, the godly knife sex patriarch sent people to deliver some precious materials and asked us to forge a level 24 equipment for him." Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. "That equipment, the Tiangongmen, used a total of 3 experts to forge for 7 days and 7 nights before it was finally completed. However, although the cost of this equipment wasn't small, it was a pity that there were some impurities in the materials that were sent and we couldn't remove them. Therefore, the final product didn't reach level 24 and only reached level 23. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi turned to look at the pale Yin Dao and continued, "Because this equipment didn't meet the requirements of the godly knife sex patriarch. After this equipment was completed, he asked us to send it to the auction house for auction." Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao and was silent for a moment before slowly asking, "Brother Yin Dao, do you understand what I mean?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Yin Dao's somewhat dazed eyes finally showed a trace of light. However, his face became more and more unsightly. After a while, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Senior Shui Lingzi, is what you said true?" When he asked this question, Yin Dao's heart was filled with hope. He hoped that Shui Lingzi would admit that what he just said was false and that the situation didn't happen. However, at the same time, he also understood the purpose of Shui Lingzi's words. Even if he obtained a level 20 equipment, so what? The godly knife sex patriarch didn't even care about level 23 equipment, let alone level 20 equipment. Thinking about how he didn't hesitate to get a level 20 equipment, even if he was seriously injured, in the eyes of the godly knife sex patriarch, it was just trash. Thinking about this reality, Yin Dao's heart ached. He longed to use this level 20 equipment to change his life. If there were no accidents, he would reach the level of Golden Blade in 20 years. But what was the point? At that time, he would already be old and wouldn't have any achievements. Even if he reached the level of Golden Blade, he would still be the least valued person. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.